family.
Wow, that's an incredibly expansive addition to our community. It's a very exciting time to be a resident of Maricopa. Hey, for more information on what's new and coming here in your community, check out what'snewmaricopa.com.
Two-year-old Mia Preston is the picture of unbridled joy.
Oh, that's pretty. It's so pretty. Swimming.
This picture shows Mia gliding with an ear-to-ear grin during her first swim lesson. It's an image Mia's mother can cherish forever, especially when she compares it against the one taken just 43 days earlier.
They say it takes 21 seconds for a child to go unconscious in the water.
For Mia, those seconds of misfortune happened while her family was on vacation. She was playing with her siblings when, in a moment of distraction, Mia slipped out a back door and fell into the pool.
She basically drowned. My husband had to pull her out of the pool and administered CPR.
Mia's father continued that CPR for over 20 minutes until paramedics arrived and got Mia's heart beating again on its own. But Mia's battle was just beginning. She would spend 9 days in the ICU, 9 days during which her parents not only didn't know whether she'd survive, but also if she'd ever be the same.
Who's that? Yeah. Who's that, Mia? Who's that? Who's that?
Mushy bear.
Mushy bear.
Mushy bear. Should we open it? Run, come back and hide.
Against the odds, Mia's condition improved, and miraculously, she's now on the road to a full recovery, a road that included a quick return to the water.
As soon as Mia got out of the hospital, the first thing I wanted to do was get her back into the water because she loved swimming, and we were really nervous that this accident would have prevented her from probably ever swimming again.
The more frequent outcome is a story that's become far too familiar for Arizona families, and one the city of Maricopa is determined to rewrite with a program called Maricopa Swims Safe in the Water.
The Maricopa Swim Safe in the Water program is designed for kids, and essentially the purpose of that is to start teaching kids at an early age how to be able to assist themselves in the instance that they fall into the water.
Suspended during the pandemic, the program is now making a comeback. Participating elementary schools bus first graders to Copper Sky for their immersive classes.
This is 4 45-minute sessions. The first 10 minutes we go over talking about water safety and going through our safety ranger program. And then we spend the rest of the time in the water going from not being comfortable to put their face in the water to being able to jump in the deep end, float on their back, and get out of the water safely.
The goal is to eventually expand the program throughout the district and invite charter schools into the pool as well. In order to get there, the community has the chance to suit up.
We can't do it without instructors, and we pay pretty decent, and it's a lot of fun. You get a free Copper Sky membership. We can't do these programs without instructors, so I hope anybody seeing this that has 3 or 4 hours open in their morning or early afternoon could come by and learn how to be an instructor.
Knowing that what I'm doing is ultimately going to help them in the long run, there's no better feeling like it.
A feeling of satisfaction for instructors and a sense of security for families like the Prestons, who found in Mia's story a new conviction for these life-saving skills.
CPR certification and swim safety with lessons is like, that's all we could advocate. We'll use her platform and her story to sell that for the rest of our lives.
Swimming.
In case you pull something.
Hold on! Go. Hey Maricopa, it's me, Sergeant Hal Cruiser. I'm here with my friends here at the police department. We've got a brand new tool that's going to help our officers out on the street and keep everybody safe. It's called a bolo wrap.
We're implementing bolo wrap for the first time at MPD. It's a new technology that doesn't use pain compliance to work.
It prevents us from using taser, baton, pepper spray, which are pain compliance tools, and we're excited to be using it. It wraps around a person, takes a Kevlar cable with hooks on the end, kind of like Spider-Man, wraps a person up so they can't take a step, they can't move their arms, allows us to go in safely, take them into custody without hurting the suspect, without hurting the officer. Prevents us from having to take a person down to the ground, get into a scuffle. The thing with a bowler wrap that makes it unique is that it's completely different in shape and in size. It's not something that we're going to get mixed up. We know when we're holding on to this, we know it's not our gun, we know it's not our taser. We don't think officers are going to get this mixed up with a firearm or a taser. We update the training for the officers and for the instructors on a yearly basis. The officers today at MPD are going through operator training. They're doing practical scenarios, they do a written test, they do malfunction drills, they learn how to safely operate the unit and when they cannot use it. We wrap each other so we know how to deploy, we know what it feels like, we know how to deploy when a person is standing still, when they're walking. So we think that the officers are well trained and well equipped to go out and use this with confidence to safely take care of our public.
And that's a wrap.
Hey, I'm Nathan Oliet, Community Services Director for the City of Maricopa, and I'm here today at the first ever in the state of Arizona fitness court that was really brought to you in part, largely in part, by Global Water through one of their sponsorships. And we're just here today to talk about what an incredible thing it was that Global Water decided to do 3 years ago.
It's through sponsorships, especially with Global Water and their significant contribution, that we're able to really expand on the entertainment side of things and also on activities that are available. We've expanded from 3 signature events to 5. We added the Copa Glow, which is the hot air balloon festival. And also, we have an event that is coming up in just a few weeks, our multicultural event. And for example, we are able, based upon the generosity of Global Water and their sponsorship, we're able to bring in some entertainment acts. We've got Polynesian dancers lined up. We're working on some Congo and steel drum performances. So it's those types of things that those extra dollars help to not only expand the events, but bring more events and bring entertainment to those events.
We are the first city to have a recreational esports program. We won the 2020 Arizona Parks and Recs Association Award for Best Sports Program. Global Water's contribution gives us the funds to start this program, which we have over 400 unique players that have enrolled in the program so far. It also allowed us to switch to an online platform once the pandemic hit. So we were able, about 120 people signed up online, and they were able to participate in our online programming, and it was awesome. If there was a timing to prove the value of this program and the versatility, it was then. The pandemic hits, the coaches already were like, let's just switch it online. Within the next weekend, everybody else was locking down. We had 22 people in our tournament. It's a way for kids that are good at video games to be competitive at something they're good at, to meet friends with the same interest. I mean, I didn't meet any friends that play video games, but now you can, you know, and you can build those lasting relationships thanks to a program like this.
Rec in the Greenbelt is a Parks and Recreation trailer on wheels. Has an esports component, but also has a bunch of different Parks and Recreation games, up from Connect 4 to Frisbee toss. We have golf. We just have a bunch of different things offered in that. I do believe Rec in the Greenbelt did a great job connecting the community. We not only provided it here, but we connected with Maricopa Unified School District and our charters by providing this trailer at their schools and interacting with their students as well. Ever since we started the program about 2 years ago, I would have to say we had about 1,000 plus participants participate. Global Water was a huge contribution to UT and enrichment programs, and they helped us out a lot.
Maricopa's Safe in the Swim program provided free swim lessons for 197 kids. And what was cool about this program, as we tracked the progress, we realized about 90% of them did not know how to swim, and time they were done, they were safer in the water. They can float, they can do some swimming, they could jump in the water, self-rescue themselves, get out of the water. This allowed opportunity for kids that not normally would be able to get to the pool to do swim lessons and things like that.
So today we're at Pecana Park, but we're actually standing here at the fitness court today, which is a national fitness campaign where they try to implement outdoor fitness courts in different areas to bring fitness closer to communities. I mean, fitness really shut down during the pandemic. For us to be able to continue to provide fitness activities to the community was huge. We definitely could not have done the fitness court without Global Water. It obviously gets really hot here in the summer, and Global Water, I mean, they directly contributed to the shade structure here of the fitness court. Now it's utilized 365 days a year. Also, the lovely decals that we have all around the fitness court as well was a direct contribution from Global Water. We could not have done any of that without them.
On our wall here, we have different sizes of stars that represent different amounts of donations, and Global Water is our largest star, our largest donor. Your contribution to the library here has allowed me to continue to do what I love to do, and it also helps us to enhance our programs by expanding the opportunities for more people to participate, having more staff involved in these programs or volunteers. And this allows us to reach more of our community. It makes you feel good when you hear this pleasant buzz in the library. It just makes me feel good to know that we do have people that are utilizing and gaining some type of skill or furthering their reading. Thank you, Global Water, for all that you've done to help support the library and our community, and we look forward to future opportunities with you.
Thank you guys, Global Water. We could not have done this fitness court without you. The city of Maricopa thanks you, and the community definitely
Here.
Okay, you guys ready? All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of September 26, 2022 to order. We're going to have invocation by Commissioner, and then Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Dan Frank. Thank you. Please stand. I know. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaFall?
Here.
Commissioner Yocum?
Here again.
Commissioner Sharp?
Here.
Chair Huggins?
Here.
Commissioner Irving? Here. Commissioner Frank?
Here.
Commissioner Robertson?
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, call to the public. If you wish to speak, please complete a speaker card submitted to the chairman prior to the start of the meeting. The procedure to follow if you address the commission are: commission requests that you express your ideas in 5 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The chairman will just limit discussion whenever she deems such an action appropriate to the proper conduct of the meeting. And I do have one speaker card, but they would like to speak at 22-02, so we will hold on to that one. Like to speak now, please approach the podium. None, we'll go ahead and close. 8 minutes from September 12th. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second? Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So moved. All righty. Onward and upward. 5.1 PAD 22-08 public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission shall hear public comment regarding a zoning map amendment to rezone approximately 325.93 acres generally located in the southeast corner of North Murphy Road and West Farrell Road within the city of Maricopa unincorporated limits from general rural GR to planned area development PAD as described in case PAD 22-08. The land is located in a portion of the west half of Section 3, Township 5 South, Range 4 of the Gila and Salt River Basin. Wow. Pinal County, Arizona, discussion and action. Could you make that any worse? Oh, it's not your fault. Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. I'm Derek Shearer, planner with the Planning Department, here to present PAD 22-08. This is a request by Angela Carmichael of DR Horton on behalf of the property owner, HBE Farms LLC, for review and approval of a zoning map amendment rezone for a proposed planned area development. On the screen you can see the site highlighted in yellow. The site covers approximately 326 acres, just shy. The existing use is agricultural. The applicant proposes to rezone it to a PAD in order to develop it in the future with residential and commercial development. The general plan for the area is master planned community, which allows for PAD development that is being proposed that has the mix of residential and commercial as a somewhat master planned community. Here we can see the zone change map on the left. You'll see that the site is zoned general rural, GR. It's that whole section outlined in the dashed lines. And on the right, the proposed PAD. The site is located just immediately south of the Volkswagen test facility. And looking at the zoning map, you can see other PAD developments for residential surrounding it, also CR3. At the corner, southwest corner of Farrell Road and Murphy, right across from the site, is the new Maricopa High School. The general plan land use map designates this area as a master plan community. There is no need to amend the general plan as a PAD falls under that category. The conceptual site plan we have here divides the site into two areas, basically 2/3 being towards the south, and if you look at this map, north is to the left, south is to the right, with a single-family subdivision that is being proposed, and we have a preliminary plat that has been submitted for that, for single-family development. The other 2/3, approximately 200 acres, is divided into several parcels for future development. The zoning categories for these parcels have not been designated in the PAD. It'll be up to the future developers to use those zoning categories that are in the PAD. And for the most part, the PAD mimics mimics what we have in the zoning ordinance. The only category that was really adjusted in the PAD is a PAD CR5, which is that northern 111 acres. Everything else pretty much follows that and will be developed mostly according to this conceptual site plan. As we see here, you see that spine road that bisects the site north to south. That road will be developed at a point when the southern 2/3 is developed. The property owner right now is going to retain those 200 acres, keep them in agriculture. The top 111 acres will be developed into a single-family development. Right there in the middle on the north side, you can see a connection to Farrell Road. That connection won't occur until it's triggered by development to the south. The currently proposed pre-plat that has been submitted has 2 access points on Murphy. One of them lines up with the drive with the high school, and there's going to be an emergency access that comes down through the agricultural area and connects to Murphy as well. Part of that road going to Farrell, that connection will be built, but it's going to stop. There's an MSIDD canal right there. It's going to stop at the canal. Once the other portion of the PAD gets developed, that'll trigger the development for that spine road to give that full north-south access down the middle of this whole site. So under the zoning criteria for approval, according to section 18.175.040, the amendment is consistent with the general plan as it's a master plan community. Any changes to the district boundaries necessary to achieve the balance and land use desired by the city is consistent with the general plan. This proposal is, this area is targeted as a master plan community. The PAD and the conceptual land use plan for the PAD puts us as a somewhat master plan community having a variety of single family, various lot sizing of single families, the contingent for also multifamily development, and then commercial development, which if we see, I just left off the corner of Murphy Road and Steen Road, you can see there. This is being designated as about a 22-acre parcel for future commercial development. But again, all of that other development will occur sometime in the future after the owner decides to stop working it agriculturally. I believe they raise sheep there right now. And then as the development all around and market conditions come about, it'll get developed. And will this amendment promote the growth in the city in an orderly fashion? It will, as this is a planned area development for 300 acres. It's a very large site, and the applicant is proposing this PAD for an orderly development of it. As required by the zoning code, the applicant sent out notification letters on August 26th to property owners within 600 feet of the subject site. Same day, the signs were posted on the site by the applicant. And on the next day, August 23rd, a newspaper notice was put into the Casa Grande Dispatch. On September 7th, a neighborhood meeting was held at the library here. I was actually in attendance there. There was a good number of people that showed up. There weren't any negative comments about it. It was just interest in what was occurring, and a general feeling I got from the public was that they'd been wondering when development would get down to this area of the city, as we've seen development here around City Center or west of us, but not towards the southeast of the city. There weren't any public comments received at the time or the writing of this report or up to this meeting from anybody, either electronic or telephone. Citizen participation report is available in the Commissioner's packet as Exhibit G. Staff finds that the PAD 2208 is substantially compliant with Section 18.175.040 of the zoning ordinance, and staff recommends approval of PAD 2208 subject to the conditions in the staff report. If the Commission has any questions, I'll be happy to answer any at this time. Also, the applicant's development team is here and can answer any questions you may have about specific timing triggers or questions on the proposal. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing also, so we will go ahead and open up the public hearing at 6:11. If you'd like to speak on this matter, please approach the podium. Okay, seeing none, we will close. All right, let's start out on the internet. Commissioner LaFall, anything?
No questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Sharp.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Yocum?
No question, just a comment. Looking at how the land is being used surrounding this particular unit, we have east, south, and west with a planned PAD, single-family resident, and resident. This would fit right in, considering what you're trying to do. I do have concerns. Of course, this is a rezoning, but I do have concerns as we go down the road with access, street design, and drainage.
Thank you. Commissioner Irving.
Hey, I have a number of questions. Over on page 3, you mentioned, because there are a lot of things that don't fit in the present pre-zone, utilizing the development standards of the proposed RS5 PAD subzone. When is this revision supposed to happen? Because again, I think it puts us in a position, for instance, the minimum lot requirement is 5,000, this is 4. The minimum lot standard size is 50, this is 40. So when is this proposed zone going to happen?
That is through the PAD. The PAD, in the PAD booklet, that is Exhibit, I believe, B or C. Sorry, Exhibit C is the PAD narrative and booklet. And in the booklet on pages 12 through 17, the applicant has proposed their standards for these districts. So what the applicant has done is basically mirrored what we have in the current zoning ordinance, where we have, for example, RM zoning for multifamily. They've changed it to RM PAD to know that it's a planned area development, but RS3, which is a base standard in our current zoning ordinance, they've called it RS3 PAD. And
so it has been changed?
Those haven't been changed. The only one that's really changed is what the RS5 is. And they've proposed changes to the minimum lot area, as you've noted, reducing it from 5,000 to 4,000 square feet. The minimum lot width from 50 feet wide to 40 feet wide. Maximum coverage, instead of us saying a 55% coverage, the coverage of the lot is only limited by the setbacks that are going to be instituted here. And if you look at it, the setbacks for side yard, front yard, rear yard are still staying the same, but it's just saying that building envelope, it will be able to be developed with whatever product that they're going to put down for the single family.
So basically, what they're requesting is that's what I'm getting confused. Are they requesting a variance, or are you, because this is proposed, that's what's going on.
Well, it's proposed because it's being proposed to you to be approved.
But that would make it a variance because it's not in line with our present standard.
Yes, and that's what part of the PAD is. They're changing those standards in this as the PAD, creating their own quote-unquote zoning ordinance for this 325 acres.
Okay, it does fit into the whole concept of rezoning. The other question I have is, or you talk about a traffic impact analysis, and I was out to that site today, and you need to walk me through the proposed, when's Farrell Road going to be done?
That is a good question, and
no, that's why I asked it.
Yeah, I have the city engineer here who can address that a little better. The development of Farrell Road is dependent upon this development and the development to the east, because for the half street, their half street that fronts up against them. But between Farrell Road and these properties, there's a rather large MSIDD and electrical easement. It's about 200 feet wide. There's also a significant canal. And part of this is any development getting to that canal or near that canal. My understanding is MSIDD wants that canal buried, and which is a significant cost. So part of this is the applicant will be through this subdivision that's on that northern portion. They're going to be paying some fees in lieu for the development of Farrell Road, the complete development of it on the half street, for when that gets triggered later on, and the other southern portion is going to pay for the crossing and burying of that canal. But we've got Eduardo here, a city engineer, who can really get into the details on that if you'd like.
I guess that's all I'm trying to get is a time frame, because right across the street to the west, you have a high school, which will soon be 2,000 kids. And going out there to that school quite often with this across the street, it plays into my feeling about rezoning it. I think the project's good, but I guess I want to be convinced that your traffic analysis is proactive, because that's what we're running into. It's after the fact that everybody comes and complains. So I just, I guess I just need to visualize when you think that traffic analysis will be appropriate, because it's not now at all.
I think Eduardo might be able to answer that a little better.
Okay.
So it sounds like the project's going to fund the road.
So this road needs not only the fund from this development, but needs the fund from the development to the south, needs the fund from the development to the east, which is Red Valley Ranch. So all of this is going to be combined into a single bucket that the city is going to use for a CIP that will solve many problems with Farrell Road, which is MSIDD undergrounding, box culvert through Murphy Road, drainage easement through Volkswagen. So we have already a CIP working on this, and then the contribution from this developer that we provide a cash in lieu, and from other developers will help us build Farrell on the north of this development.
Okay, fine. I just want to make sure that everybody knew that there is a proactive plan with the tremendous growth in there, because I was out there about 1 o'clock, and that's not even close. So, yeah, as long as you understand the issue with Farrell Road and what that, because you do know they're doubling the size of the high school. They're working on it right now, and with all that, which means the older students who will be able to drive. So it's just creating another school traffic nightmare. And I just want to make sure we're proactive with that, because you're telling me a lot of pieces have to fit together to do that.
Correct, and that's the reason the city is getting very involved into this
Okay.
area, because it takes a lot of effort of coordinating everyone into
It really
a
does.
single project.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure you're on top of it. Sounds like you are. And I think for this one, yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Frank.
So what's the timing on those improvements? Because I too was a little bit concerned because I think the owner to the north is GM Proving Grounds. They're probably not going anywhere, I hope, for a while.
Yeah, we had a meeting with Volkswagen, and they are willing to help us with easements for drainage. The timing, we have to work with MSIDD on both sides, plus we got to work with Volkswagen. I would say that it will probably take us 2 years before we can complete design and start improvements.
Okay. My other question, kind of related to that in GM Proving Grounds, is I'm a little concerned with the land use here, because I know from other proving grounds in the area, when development starts encroaching into their areas, they get a little cagey about that, and because there's secrecy and all of that. So something we have to be mindful of, because what happened in Mesa with GM is they moved out and went down to Yuma. I'd hate to lose one of our employers, our big employers here, because of development pressures and too many prying eyes around there. I realize we're trying to hold the ocean back with a broom here with this development, but that's just something I'd like our planners to be cognizant of as these things are developing around here. We, have transitional areas or I don't know, it's just something else. But I get where we're at here today.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson.
I too had picked up on the lot size change, Commissioner Irving said. So if I understand it correctly, the fact that they're moving to a PAD allows the lot size change without a variance.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. The only thing that I was concerned about, and it goes along the lines of the traffic, and I know, again, nothing against the project, but I'm all about the traffic, is you had mentioned that it was going to be built in phases. Do we have some sort of time frame, or is there knowledge of what type of time frame between the phases?
I do not know for sure. I do have the applicant's consultant team here. They may have a better idea. My understanding is that top 1/3, 111 acres, it will be developed. We have a pre-plat in for that already.
How many homes is that?
That one will be about 479 units for that whole area. It'll be 4.52 dwelling units an acre. The overall 325 acres will be maxed out at a 1,642 dwelling units, or 5.28 per acre.
So we're talking about 2,000 units.
1,600 and change.
That you said 1,600 was the second phase.
No, 1,600 is total.
Oh, okay.
Both phases.
Okay. 1,600, so that's a lot of cars.
What's down the street?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Edison on the other way?
Exactly. So I guess the bigger question is, just so that we can put it out here so that everybody understands that we know what we're looking at, can you address the fact that the traffic study impact has taken all of the surrounding build-out factors into place as this is going?
Yes, the TIAs take the highest and best use under a zoning district. So it grabbed all of those around it at what their highest densities and everything could be, and then calculated that out and put it into the TIA.
So just to reiterate in layman's term, basically when you did the study, you looked at this lot's going to have this many, this is going to have this many, and this is going to have this many, whether it's built or not.
Yeah, and they look at it, this is the worst case scenario on this lot, this is the worst case scenario on that lot, and they write it up based on that.
Right, I just wanted to dumb that down, sorry. Commissioner Robinson, you said you had another question?
I guess I do have another question. So what is the justification or the basis that the developer is giving for asking for a smaller lot size?
Excellent question, thank you. If you can look at the PAD in the booklet, they are actually doing a very good job on their amenity package. And unlike a lot of PADs we've seen, they are mandating in their pocket parks, they have a community park and pocket parks, and they're mandating a rather extensive list of amenities that need to be provided in it, where a lot of these other developments just put in a Ramada and maybe a barbecue. They have a strong list. Ramada, barbecue, exercise trail on the east side of this property, the entire length of it. It's part of the master plan trails, our master plan parks and trails system. There is going to be a 50-foot wide, I believe, along the east side, and then 200 feet on the north side of a trail. And the trail is going to be developed with a 10-foot wide concrete path with a 4-foot wide soft DG path. So it's multi-use, whether bicycles, walking. The soft could be equestrian if it needed. And within all of the development, all of the little pocket parks are being amenitized and connected with all the trails. So it meets our standards for being within, every residence will be within 880 feet of an amenitized park-like area that they can use. And that's what's being the trade-off of these changes and adjustments to the base standards. So in lieu of these, they're providing more with these parks and amenities.
So it's not about cramming more houses in for economic gain. They actually are trading it off for amenities and space.
I think that's always inherent in every development.
I was going to say, why is this any new? Come on.
What was I thinking?
But then it's that trade-off.
So they still meet the density requirements even though they're smaller lots?
Yes, and overall, the overall development here will be 5.28 acres, which still falls under the medium density residential development. So when you add everything up, 5.28 is average of 9,000 square feet per lot. The lots won't have 9,000 square feet each, but with open space areas and the actual lot, that's what it averages out to.
Just don't take my no street parking sign away. That's it, right? Anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, this is for action as well.
I'll make a motion that we approve 22-08.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments, or concerns, commissioners? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. 5.2, PAD 22-11, public hearing, a request Pew and Lake PLC, on behalf of PHX Surf LLC, requesting review and approval to create a PHX Surf Planned Area Development PAD, including the creation of a development land use plan, permitted uses, and development standards for PHX Surf, a proposed surf and water park, on-site hospitality, retail, restaurant, and outdoor entertainment center. The property is generally located at the northwest corner of Smith Inc. Road, State Route 238, and North Loma Road. Discussion and action.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Byron Easton. I'm Senior Planner here with the City of Maricopa. And like you said, I am here to present PHX Surf, which is PAD 22-11. This request by Pew and Lake PLC on behalf of PHX Surf is to amend 71 acres of industrial CI2 land, existing land, to a proposed planned area development. This is to create the PAD zoning for a very unique product to the City of Maricopa, which is the creation of the land plan, the permitted uses for a proposed surf and water park, on-site hospitality, retail, restaurant, and outdoor entertainment center. So the general plan for this area actually already supports this type of development, and it's currently showing a mixture, about a half and half, of employment and commercial currently on this piece of property. So there is no general plan amendment that will be required for this project to move forward. There will be a rezone required, though. As I previously mentioned, this is an industrial zoned parcel. So we will be asking, or the applicant is asking for a planned area development in lieu of and replacement of that industrial zoning. If the rezone is approved, the next step would be the development review permit, where all the site plan specifics would be reviewed, including all the architecture, elevations, site happenings, traffic, ingress, egress, fire access, all of utility access, all of those things. Well, we will be reviewing in front of Madam Chair and Commissioners moving forward. And then last step is construction drawings, building permits, etc. So let's take a look here at the location. Just south of Route 238, just east of North Green Road alignment, we have the site, which is 71 acres. As I said before, employment, commercial is the general plan land use for this parcel. This existing zoning is incorrectly written up there, my mistake. It is actually CI2 and it is industrial. The proposed zoning is PAD 22-11, which is what we're discussing here this evening. To the west is currently the Hoganess Dairy Farm operation. To the north is Ak-Chen Reservation lands. To the east, you may recognize the Flats 520 multifamily development currently being built. If any of us, like myself, commute, we see the giant trucks coming down every day. That's what that's all about. They're bringing in the pieces to build that guy right now. To the south is it's general rural zoned, and there's some scattered, mainly vacant, but there are some single-family residences to the south, on the other side of the railroad tracks and Garvey Avenue. This is a general plan land use map. As I mentioned previously, about half is commercial, half is employment currently. The existing zoning map shows the current CI2 industrial zoning in purple, and then the proposed zoning of PAD on the right. So just a little bit about the site. So this, like I said, this is a very unique product in Maricopa. This is going to be something that's going to attract a lot of tourism, a lot of visitors to our city, and then also provide recreation and job opportunities to our residents. This is a competition-level surf park, first and foremost. It's not necessarily what you would think of as a big surf or a lot of little kids in a giant wave pool. This is actually really built for surfers and to bring surfers and surf recreation to our area. The applicant is planning on having international surf competitions here. So people will travel, they'll fly into Phoenix Airport, and they'll come down and they'll stay in our city for actual surf competitions and related entertainment options, concerts, things like that. So that's the main use of this area. As you look at the site plan and get some context, you can see the two very large wave pools where they'll have the surfing competitions. They'll also have surfing lessons. Recreational surfers can come and sign up for time slots to surf. And then you also have to the west, I don't know if you guys can see my little pointer, but to the west here is they're like called villas, or kind of a little bungalow product. So that would be for people to rent for hospitality purposes while they're staying on site to enjoy the competition or the recreation opportunities. All the retail, and they have a surf school and some other things down kind of in the south here by the parking lot. And then over to the east, southeast, they actually will have an RV parking area for people who want to come with their RVs and stay on site. And then the northeast is more of the recreation for all type of facilities with the lazy river and the pools and the bungalows that you can rent, the shade, and water slides and things like that. And then right in the center, up to the north, I believe, is their concert venue. So they'll have smaller scale concerts and other options that will take place in this area up here. So, did I forget anything? There's 5-acre lagoon for surfing. There's a surf academy where they'll actually teach people how to surf and then take them out into the wave pools. There's going to be the surf villas, recreational RV campsites. I believe the hotel may or may not be actually something that they are pursuing. The latest I heard is they may just go with the villas instead of the hotel. However, for our purposes, we're going to keep the PAD as it's written for approval, and if they choose not to do the hotel, they don't have to do the hotel, but we don't have to remove it. We can still leave it in there. So in the future, if they change their mind or if someone else comes along and buys the project, they can build the hotel. There will be retail and restaurant opportunities. And then, like I said, the additional outdoor entertainment, water park, there's a bike pump track and a concert venue. So just kind of a conceptual look at the site. This would be looking south from the north of the site, basically looking toward the city, what you would see from the viewpoint. So we're looking, closest to us would be the villas, then the surf park, then the conceptual hotel if it does get built. And then as you go further south, east, you're looking at where the lazy river and the water slides and things would be. Public comment. The applicant did follow all the requirements set forth in our city code for public hearing. They advertised in the Maricopa Monitor and the Casa Grande Dispatch. Notification letters were sent out to all property owners within 600 feet. The neighborhood meeting was held on June 11th at the Copper Sky Center, Room B, where 4 citizens from 3 households attended. The applicant did provide a PowerPoint presentation for the citizens. It sounds like from the citizen participation report, which is Exhibit D for your review, that the question centered more around water use for the site. Where are they getting the water from? You guys are all shaking your head, huh? Yeah. So, and also what kind of added traffic there would be to the area, specifically questions regarding traffic impact to Garvey Road. Surprisingly, at the time of the report has written, I've only received 1 formal comment via email. So I haven't received any calls or emails, which I thought I would hear more from the citizens. But I do read the Facebook, so I know that water is definitely going to be something that's going to pop up here. And so, as a city, I'm going to go ahead and address it now. We ask for a certificate of water assurance from Global Water, who is the water provider for this site. And they did provide a certificate of water assurance for the site. As you know, we don't have city water, so that is our requirement that they prove through that letter that they have adequate water supply for something that requires this much water, and they did provide that. The applicant is here to answer any questions, and also a representative from Global Water is here this evening as well. With that said, staff does recommend approval of Planned Area Development PAD Case 22-11, subject to the conditions of approval stated in the staff report and as amended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm here to answer any questions for staff that you may have. And I'd like to reiterate that the applicant is also available to answer questions at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing as well, so we will go ahead and call the public hearing portion open. If you'd like to speak on this, please approach the podium.
Sue Van Gosen, 41452 West Lucera Lane. My question is, this is a proposed major attraction, international competition. How do we handle that traffic coming in and out of the city when we can't handle what we have now? And if they agree to fix the roads, will you do 238 first, since that'll be the main entrance and exit for that property? And with that many people coming in, will they be able to provide parking for the size crowds that they're expecting? Traffic is my main harping thing. Because anyone caught in the traffic this last weekend behind that accident knows that we need something done about these roads.
Thank you. All right, anybody else like to speak on this? Please come forward. Please state your name and address for the records.
My name is Van Pellerin. I own the property just in back of the proposed water park, just south of there. And me and my wife went to the last gathering that they had, and it came up as the water issue. Is this water being taken out of wells? I was told it was reclaimed water. I'm more interested in the water portion on how they're feeding the water park, more than anything. So that's my concern.
Thank you. Come on, Tina. Surprised you didn't come up.
Good evening. My name is Tina Dugan, 42097 West Arvada Court. Traffic is my first concern. Only on 238, we have a large amount of semi-truck traffic going out to the dump and all of that. So my biggest concern would be for how they're going to address that. The other thing is the concert venue. I know that just south of there, I believe that's planned for a residential development. And I didn't know if they've looked into how that noise is going to affect that, or even the really cool apartments that they're building, the flats. I love watching those go together. But that would be the only other concern that, as this moves forward, that I think would need to be addressed, is how the residents would deal with the noise. It looks to me like they've got it going out to the west so that the music should hopefully go out to the dairy with no cows. But yeah, so those would be my two biggest concerns.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close it at 6:43. Okay. You guys are okay with it. I think I'm kind of inclined to have Global Water come up and speak about the water.
I was just going to say.
Yeah. So if we can have the representative from Global Water come up and address the concerns, because I was going to ask pretty much the same questions.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Chair, with just a real brief introduction, if we could, please. My name is Reese Anderson, and I'm an attorney with Pugh & Lake. We're the applicants. And just to say that in addition to myself, John Gillespie, who's an attorney in our office, is here. And then the founders of PHX Surf, Aaron LaGrassa, Steve Howard, are here. Jaron Linder King from Global Water, who I just wanted to briefly introduce. And then also Joe Spadafino from CivTech as our traffic engineer. So we brought our team, anticipating you may have some questions. We're all here to answer any questions that you may have. And let me turn it over to Jared Linder King from Global Water, who can answer all these questions. They're good questions, but we have answers.
Thanks. We like the project. We just want to make sure it's going to fly.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Chair. Jake Linder King, Global Water, or State Farm, if you're feeling joking. Open to any kind of questions you guys have for me about water.
Well, why don't we start off by having you kind of give the constituents here the ability to understand where all this water is coming from and how you were able to give them a certification to state that there is enough water for not only this development, but surrounding developments, including the property behind and everybody else.
Okay, sounds good. So Global Water has a designation of an assured water supply of 22,914 acre feet, say 23,000 acre feet. It's a certain thing that we get from the Arizona Department of Water Resources, where we prove to them that we have 100 years of water of that amount year after year. So we went ahead and did that, and today we're using about 8,000 acre feet of our 23,000 acre feet of water. Our water was proven up using sophisticated groundwater modeling of the local groundwater aquifer that looked out through 100 years of pumping of that groundwater. So we'd be providing groundwater to the project, and based on, based on the project demand, the net water demand of the project, we support it. We see it being about 189 acre feet per year. And again, our designation of assured water supply that we've proven to the Department of Water Resources is for about 23,000 acre feet. So how much water is that of the supplies that we know we have here in our local reservoirs, as well as our recycled water? It's about 0.89%. We heard about this project. Of course, we were very concerned, and we started working with the project developer and engineers to understand and learn more. And we've been working with them to actually find ways we can even reduce that. There's a certain way of reuse that's going to happen on the project that reduced it from being 0.83% of our designation of assured water supply down to 0.65% of our designation of assured water supply. So actually less than almost half of 1% of our designation of assured water supply. If I can, I'd like to spend a little more of a minute about us and what goes into that designation of assured water supply. How did we prove to the Department of Water Resources that the water's there? I mentioned briefly there was a groundwater model, and that's a very sophisticated computer model that takes all the different data points from all the different wells in the entire basin, going east all the way towards the mountains, going west and southwest all the way to Eloy, all the way to Florence. It combines all the known data points of all that, creating a very sophisticated groundwater model, and takes into account all the existing demand and all the projected demand. So even though our demand in Maricopa is only 8,000 acre feet a year, give or take, it actually models our projected demand being all 23,000 acre feet in this assured water supply application that we put forth in front of the Department of Water Resources. A part of that is groundwater, and a part of that, again, is recycled water. With Global, we're very proud that we've been working on a philosophy that we call total water management. It's an evolving philosophy that's putting the right water to use at the right time, proving up our water supplies, having good planning, having strong conservation programs, and the like. Some of the key parts of total water management, of course, you probably all are aware of, are Purple Pipe, or our reuse system, bringing recycled water throughout the community. That's been a really big part of our success in total water management and keeping our demand number low inside that large designation. Another part are smart water meters that allow our customers to know how much water they use each and every day, even down to the hour. It even includes the ability to get texts on your phone about leak alerts. And you combine that data source with a 7-tier rate structure that has increasing cost if you use more water, but actually a rebate at 6,000 gallons, which we call our conservation rebate threshold. So we give the customers a target, if you will, to actually get a rebate threshold on their bill, and we give them the data to be able to acquire that inside the billing period, inside the 30 days. I could go on some more about our conservation programs, but I just wanted to say combined, these efforts have really worked to keep our demand down to that 8,000 acre feet and actually give us the second lowest gallons per capita per day water rate of all designated providers in the greater Phoenix and Pinal areas. So that's 116 gallons per person per day is the rate as published by DWR and by the Arizona Department of Water Resources, or DWR, in their fourth management plan. So we definitely have the water resources. We've been working with the project owners, and we know that we can support this project coming to Maricopa and being provided water by us.
I have a couple questions, if I can throw them out there. What would happen if the state of Arizona, based on, because you're getting your designation from the state, what if some other places started using more, built up faster, and they lower our allotment?
That's a good question. We're very engaged with the state, and we've been very engaged with the Arizona Department of Water Resources in specific to Pinal AMA or Pinal Active Management Area, this region's groundwater and recycled water resources. Our designation is, it's not completely set in stone, but it's very well set in stone. We actually worked with stakeholders to codify what individual places have. We have 22,914 acre feet of water, and another area in, say, Stanfield or Casa Grande can't come and take that. That's actually here underneath our feet. So it's a very secure source of water.
But what if our population increases significantly, as it's projected to do? Then where do we stand on that?
That's a really important question. Something that we don't take lightly as a water utility. It's our job to have that resource. So although we're using about a third of our water supplies today, and you could just say, okay, we could more than double or triple our size based on our water supplies today. We're looking out beyond that. We're thinking about what actions can we do and work with the community to make sure our water supplies stretch even further and even acquire water supplies. Recently, we've implemented what we call our 4x4 plan, where we're thinking about all the different pieces, moving pieces around our water supply here, and I'll just hit on them really briefly. While we do have a very good per capita rate here in Maricopa, we still see about half of our water use outdoors. And so working on land use planning and irrigation, we're talking about, with city staff at a high level, about can we improve ordinances around outdoor water use in general going forward into the future? Can we look at global water, the plans that we see coming to us from developers, and talk to them about how water use is being used? Should we be looking at, say, large amounts of water out at the front or monument of a property, or should we be thinking more about pocket parks? And we've had some good, successful conversations with developers there. We're really working hard on rules, laws, and planning. Recycled water use 2.0. We use our recycled water here for irrigation of common areas and parks, but in the future we're thinking about, actually we're planning and working towards it. We have multiple permits for recharge and recovery as a part of IPR, or indirect potable reuse, and we're also working towards planning for eventually direct potable reuse. And then lastly, water acquisitions are always on the table. So we have more than double, almost triple the water supplies we need to triple the population of Maricopa, but we're looking out beyond that, doing the planning and the work today for those actions.
So if our 60,000 population tripled, you would still have enough water to support that?
Yes, it's going to depend a lot on the mix and what the development is, but if it looks like it is today, we have, we're using about 8,000 acre feet of 23,000 acre feet today.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. We'll start out on the internet like we normally do. Commissioner LaFalle, do you have anything for Global Water or the applicant?
Not necessarily for Global Water, but just in, one moment. My question is on the parking. Really bad echo here. And that question was raised by one of the residents. Is there going to be adequate parking? Because this is a pretty substantial project, which I think is a great project. And I'm excited about the international exposure.
Okay. No, yeah, we got you. We're trying to change people around because we were just trying to focus on Global Water, but that's okay.
Madam Chair, Commissioner LaFalle, again, Reese Anderson, just for those that are listening on the internet. And I think the question was asked earlier by Ms. Tina about traffic, and then, of course, by the Commissioner. And let me answer both traffic and parking while I'm up here, if it's okay for the Commission. So remember that as part of this project in the first phase, we've got to do additional build out of Loma, right? That's on our east side. So if you've driven that road, you'll see that on the south side, it's already 2 lanes in each direction. So we're going to finish that on our side. That's where the back of house is, maintenance, et cetera, for the activities. On State Route 238, additional right-of-way dedication there, and then completion of our half street, which is the standard requirement, and that's absolutely part of the first phase. Then on Green Road, this is an interesting one too, because Green feels like a collector, but the amount of right-of-way requested there for our half street is 58 feet. And then you might say, well, that's a strange number, Reese. But the reason is because Green Road is slated by your transportation plan to go up and over the tracks. So it needs that little bit of right-of-way. So that is all part of our efforts, our contribution, and frankly, it's the requirement. And we're happy to comply with that. So that's all part of traffic, right? We're doing our part of our adjacent half streets as we should. As far as parking goes, we can get into the specifics of that if you'd like, and it's in our PAD standards report, but our conversations with the staff could be summed up like this. And this is the conversation Byron and I had. Reese, when you got everything going, when every activity is full, do you have enough parking? That was the analysis to ask. And I think that was the fair question to be asked. And the answer is yes. And we've got to prove that up again when we come back in our DPR process. And so you will see that again with even more specifics, but if you want to get really into the weeds, I'll invite Joe Spadafino from CivTech up. But the standard is, when everybody's there and it's busy, do you have enough? And the answer is yes. Does that help?
Yeah, we'll beat you up later on that one.
Absolutely. We welcome.
Anybody that comes before us knows that that's what we do. Did that answer all your questions, Commissioner LaFalle? Thank you. Commissioner Sharp.
So just a point of clarification, Madam Chair, are we only asking questions to Global Water, or is this our open forum?
May as well do it all. Go ahead.
Perfect. I have a question. First of all, thank you for the clarification. The gentleman from Global Water answered a few of the questions that I had regarding this project, but I wanted to make sure that I understand something in this community. It looks like 23 folks were reached in the notification area. Am I reading that mailing correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Sharp, this is Byron Easton back to answer that question. I believe that is correct. I verify the radius map whenever the applicant sends it out. I double check and make sure that everyone is notified that should be notified.
Perfect. Well, what I was seeing on the notification was that of the 23, 9 are the city of Maricopa. So that cuts it down to 14 entities and individuals that were notified about this project. Hence the reason why you probably didn't receive very much feedback. I do understand that signage was posted and the other notification requirements were met. But for an entertainment project of this size, I would anticipate a little bit more public comment and input. And I think this is a chicken or the egg problem that I'm seeing, because on the one hand, we've got a couple hundred units going in, which would be to the immediate east of the project. They did not have a say in this particular project. And I'm just thinking about having an entertainment park adjacent to residential in such close proximity. And I think it's just something that we as a body should discuss, since we have an entertainment corridor on the south end of the city that is a little bit more appropriate for this type of venue. So those are my only comments, is that, it's a little close to residential. They're going to have an amphitheater and a concert venue, and it's just, I don't think this is just a good fit for entertainment space. I like the project, I like the idea, but I think it's the placement that's my biggest concern.
Thank you, Commissioner Sharp. I just wanted to remind you as well, is that when the applicant does go through the DRP process on down the line here, there will be another round of notifications. We can work with the applicant to widen the notification radius if need be. In addition, I don't know if the Fuse 520 folks will be moved in by then, but they obviously would be more included in that process. I would like to point out that the applicant did meet the requirements of our code for the 600 feet at this time. They did meet our city requirements for the notification. In addition, they advertised in both newspapers, had a neighborhood meeting, and advertised for the public hearing itself.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that the applicant didn't meet the notice requirements. I know they did. And as a matter of fact, they exceeded the 600 feet. They went 1,000 feet. My larger point was that didn't really touch that many folks, right? And given the amount of folks that will be living in that immediate area, I think we as a body, and this is separate and apart from the applicant's submittal, need to consider that carefully. That's the only point that I was making. The applicants did exactly what they were supposed to do.
So why don't I suggest this? When we get to that point of the DRP, why don't the city of Maricopa send out an email blast to advise everybody of the public comment session? And that way we'll hit everybody that within the sound of an email.
Done.
Is that acceptable, Commissioner Sharp?
Yes.
Any other comments?
No other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Yoakum.
I have a number of questions about the water. Do we have the gentleman from Global handy?
They're here.
I know it's going to take a large amount of water to fill those two wave pools, but once they're filled, how much water do we expect to lose through normal use, spillage, and evaporation? Any thought on that at all?
Chairman, Commissioners, Commissioner Yoakum, I don't have all those direct numbers here with me. Evaporation's a pretty standard amount of water, across the surface. I do understand that the company's looking at different technologies to help reduce that.
But wouldn't it be substantially less than when you filled the pool?
Yes. The initial fill will be the larger volume of water.
If we were to take these 70-plus acres and put mixed density housing in there, how much water would be required for 71 acres of homes?
That's a good question. Homes, as we see subdivisions develop throughout Maricopa, would be a little bit less water, about 100 acre feet. So the project would be a bit more at about 149 acre feet. Another good comparison is also agriculture. Agriculture uses almost about 4 times as much as the homes, so it would use just a little more than double this project across the,
How about if we
70 acres. I'm sorry?
If we put agriculture in there, let's say we,
It would probably use about 300 acre feet as an estimate. There's different crop mixes, different irrigation practices and such, but agriculture in general in this area is using about 4 acre feet per acre, and we're seeing municipal uses using about 1, and we're seeing this project much below agriculture, but a little bit more than our standard subdivision.
if we look at those uses and we use that as an offset, let's say, on what the wave pools would require, it's really not as much water as we think.
That's correct. It's not, and the whole acreage is not a wave pool either. You see lots of parking lot and other things going on there.
That's all I have on the water. Thank you very much. I do have a few other things. Okay. I'm very concerned about the traffic situation. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details, but in the staff report, we did go into a lot of details, and I think we're going to have to watch them very, very closely. We also have a floodplain issue here that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. And finally, noise. I know that when you have a facility like this and you have the activities you're going to have, and if I recall, sometimes they're going to go till 10 o'clock at night, and if they're having meets or whatever, it could go even later than that. And I just want to make sure that we are very, very aware of and taking care of our neighbors when it comes to noise, knowing what noise is going to be and how we're going to manage it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Frank?
So yeah, traffic is probably my biggest concern with this as well. As I understand, there's a potential plan for Green Road to bring, act as a loop road, bringing in traffic around. It's not part of this project, but a future project from the city. What happens if that project doesn't come to fruition? What are the plans for improving 238 to accommodate that higher traffic load?
Chair Huggins, Commissioner Frank, as you may or may not know, we are taking over 238 as a city from ADOT. So we would have the ability to react to whatever situations need to be addressed concerning this project or any other project, much more expedited than going through ADOT to expand 238.
There's a planned development just on the other side of 238. Is that correct?
To the south?
No, to the north.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, there is one to the west, I believe. Can we bring this up here? Actually,
I believe-
I have a slide, sir, to address that, actually. Let's take
I guess my question is there enough right-of-way being dedicated or set aside to improve 238 to what it's going to need to be improved to?
So I'm going to bring up our city engineer, Eduardo. He's going to speak to what requirements were, or what was asked of the applicant to prepare for the developments in this area. To answer your previous question, just for internet folks who can't see the screen, we are talking about Moonlight Ridge, which is the planned development to the west, I believe.
Okay, that's the one I was thinking, but
Yep.
it's not right across. Thank you.
Okay. Here's Eduardo. Hold on one second.
Aren't you glad you came tonight?
For 238, first step was to take it away from ADOT, which we already did. Next step is that we are collecting cash in lieu from all developers, because this is going to be a project that no single developer can make. The city will have to make condemnations. We are making annexations because we don't own the land on the north of 238 between Green Road and 347. So it's a long-term work and a lot of effort and money that we're going to be putting into this. And all of these developments around the area, it's putting their part, which is dedication and cash in lieu for. We also have some funds from ADOT already to start designing, which we have already started it. Also, we already started the studies for the loop road required by GRIC to be able to give us the permission to build a road on their land.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello? Commissioner Robinson?
I too had a bunch of questions on water, and I think you've addressed them adequately. Thank you for the presentation. So maybe just a comment. It was refreshing to hear that the annualized use wouldn't be much more than if that was a housing development. So that's an important understanding for our community, for our citizens. There is a pretty good misunderstanding about our water situation here in the Maricopa Stanfield subbasin. We hear in the press about the Colorado River shortages and cutting off, Pinal County is going to get cut off, from irrigation for agriculture. So my concern is more long range. It's just a comment. As those agricultural operations start pumping from groundwater, and our region, not just Maricopa, Eloy, Coolidge, Florence is growing, everybody's growing in the region. The demand on the aquifer is going to increase. And for the life of me, I can't figure out how the 100-year water guarantee even works. It's been explained to me many times, I still can't figure it out how you can see that far down and understand what's going to be used. So depletion of our aquifer is more of a concern of mine. this is not going to have the immediate impact on it, but the global impact, keep that in mind. There's going to be a regional impact that eventually is going to hit our little nest egg of water. There's no getting away from that. I don't see how that can happen. So thanks for the question, or for the answers to the questions on water. I think you've answered them well, and I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
I know Eduardo sat down, so I'm going to apologize. You might have to get up again. What type of plans do we as a city have when 238 gets shut down? We haven't, if there's a venue, a concert venue or a surfing competition that's going on there, and we have a monsoon that comes through and it shuts down 238, that's forcing all of the traffic back into town to get out of town instead of being able to split the traffic. Has that been given any type of thought?
Yes, correct. The design will include making improvements so that we don't have to shut down 238 within city limits, of course. Most of the traffic is always going to go through 347, north or south. In case there's people that want to use 238 to go west, you always have the 8th that you can go through south on the 347 and get the 8th instead of 238. So
that's my point.
Yeah.
That when the 238 is closed down, all of the people that are trying to go through the 347 to 238 to get out to Rocky Point or Glamis or wherever they might be going, they're not going to be able to do that, which means that now they're going to go completely through town to get to the 8.
Correct. Fortunately, we don't see 238 closed many times a year. So,
been closed a lot this last year.
what's that?
It's been closed a lot in the last 3 months.
Correct. But
right.
Yeah, during the monsoon season, you'll see it closed maybe a year, 3 weeks a year. Mostly.
My only question was, had we thought about this? Because if we're having a surfing competition in the middle of July or August and we have a monsoon that comes through, it takes a good couple of days before that road opens back up. Or if there's storms down in Tucson.
Yeah,
That's my only question.
And there's basically nothing we can do about the road west of the city because it's
Correct.
not within city limits.
Okay, I think that's it. All right, I don't have anything else. Does anybody, this is action?
Madam Chair, forgive me for interjecting here, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this because we were just speaking a few moments ago about expanding the notification circumference. And I thought I heard something about an email blast, and I just wanted to make it perfectly clear that from a city standpoint, we can extend the notification radius. We can go to 1,000 feet. We can make that number whatever we want to do, but the city does not have the ability to send out an email blast in order to notify people. And I apologize for the digression here, but I just wanted to understand it from my standpoint because I thought we just agreed to that, and I just want to make sure we're crystal clear here.
I don't think we're looking at for the official notification, just something that we put it out there that the open comment period is available to anybody, not to use it as the official notification period or area.
And then just one other point with that, and thank you for clarifying that, then I would suggest maybe here and now, just to get it on the record, we settle on a certain distance for that notification here.
Madam Chair, I don't really think that is appropriate right now, since that's not agendized for us to change that. I mean, you guys can settle it later, but I just would have a question for us having a big debate.
Please.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, we'll defer to you on the technical issues, but just so you know, just so the record's clear tonight, the minimum requirement is 600. We did go 1,000, and we're happy to double that or even go to 1,500, and you have our word on the record to the planning director that we would do that in our mailers, if that will help.
That-
You guys can work.
Yes,
Yeah,
we'll,
that's-
we'll work that out, and we're happy to do it.
Yeah,
That's
thank
fine.
you.
I think-
I wasn't suggesting that we add a stipulation to the, to the final, but I just wanted to make sure we all were on the same page. Thank you very much.
I think the clarification was just that Commissioner Sharp was looking to see, to make sure that other surrounding people knew about this project too, because there's only commercial around this or agricultural. He's wanting the information to get out to the residents. This is action?
Yeah. I would move approval of 2208 as submitted.
No,
I'm sorry,
2211.
2211. Vote on 8 again too if you'd like.
No. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair, before we go, just one other item, not case related. It's been brought to our attention, we're getting a little bit of feedback for the internet guys. If we could just keep our mics muted until we actually speak, we're hoping that may help.
Okay.
Forgive me for interrupting.
Madam Chair, if you could ask for a roll call, I did not get.
Yeah, I didn't
any-
hear it either.
If you could ask for a roll call.
Yeah, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner LaFall? Commissioner Yocum?
Vote yes or no?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp?
Aye.
Chair Huggins?
Aye.
Commissioner Irving? Commissioner Frank?
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson?
Aye.
Said yes. All right, so moved. All right, guys, moving onward and upward. 5.3, DRP 22-02, a request by David Bowen of PFH Group requesting review and approval of site plan, landscape, photometric, and elevation plans for proposed 318 townhome style unit, multi-story, multifamily development on approximately 16.10 acres located on the southeast corner of Stonegate Road and Allen Stevens Parkway, which is north of the Maricopa Casa Grande Highway in the city of Maricopa. Discussion and action.
Thanks again, Chair Huggins, Commissioners. So I'm here again to present a request by David Bond of BFH Group for the review and approval of site plan, landscape, photometric, and elevation plans. This is for a 318 townhome style for sale unit, multi-story, multifamily development on approximately 13 acres located at the southwest corner of Stonegate Road and Allen Stevens Parkway. So these units are a for sale product. They are going to have a condo plat assigned to them, so the individual units will be owned. And in addition, the land underneath the units will be owned, so this will be platted. Just as a clarification. So you will own the actual unit and the land underneath the unit. Does that make sense? Chair Huggins?
I'm doing that because usually condos are owned by the association and not the individual owners.
Correct. So it will have an association that's tied to it, but the difference between a townhouse and a condo is the townhouse, you actually own the parcel, so you'll have an APN number. It's a technicality. It doesn't make a lot of difference.
Right, you just mentioned condo, that's why I was like.
Okay. So yes, it's a townhouse product. Sorry if I said that poorly. So the part one of the entitlement process that we went through earlier in the year in April for the P&Z and approved by the mayor and city council on May 3rd was the zoning for this case. So this is the next step, or part two, which is the development review permit. The site location, as you can see here, is southeast corner of North Stonegate Road and Allen Stevens Parkway. This is just to the northeast or northwest of Walmart, just to give everybody kind of an idea of where we're talking about. The site acreage is about 16 acres. The general plan was amended and the zoning was amended back in April to high-density residential. There is no overlay zoning. This is a two-story product, so kind of a little different than what we've been seeing in the other multifamily with the high-rise apartments. This is two-story townhomes, 318 units. They are over parking by 3, so they have adequate parking for the site. Parking requirement was met. To the north is Glenwild subdivision. And to the east is A+ Charter School. To the south, we have a future plan commercial. And to the west, there was a multifamily product that was slated for this area. However, I believe it's still kind of up in the air. It's part of the Stonegate PAD. It's a mixed-use type of designation for this area. This is the site, and as you see the site, we kind of look around. We see to the north is Allen Stevens Parkway. I think that's, as we talked about buffers, an area that maybe we should start by taking a look at. They do have over 40 feet buffer to the north, about 45 feet to the actual building setback from the property line, with a really adequate and over standard landscaping along that Allen Stevens frontage. In addition, the two main access points are going to be off of Stonegate Road. We were very cognizant as staff to try to keep as much traffic off of Allen Stevens as possible. As people in the Glenwild community already know, this is a fairly maxed out road. So with this development coming on tap, we didn't want to have them feeding out to Allen Stevens Parkway. There is one emergency only access point. That's for emergency vehicles access only. Off of Allen Stevens. There's also an emergency-only access point here to the future commercial area. We also staff, which we have to commend the applicant. We didn't really want a very walled-in kind of community here, especially with whatever is going to be planned to the south. So the applicant actually went out of their way to work with staff to create this southern parking area with actual access. So you would be able to park in these spots and walk to your unit through these gated entryways here. So we worked with the applicant. We're going to have those keyed, fobbed, whatever, gates, so for people to be able to not only walk in and out of the development, but also kind of connect with the commercial to the south, so when whatever ends up being there to the south, you're not just looking at a giant wall. You actually can be able to have a little more interaction with this development. In addition, there's several tot lots throughout the development. There's a main amenity area up at the northwest side of the property. And we really work hard with the applicant on creating a lot of pedestrian movement and walkways. As you can see, all of those little walkways in between the units going east to west, west to east, north to south. Little corridors. We worked with them to widen those to a minimum of 10 feet so they're not creepy corridors. They're going to be lit. They're going to be paved. So, as a resident in this community, you should be able to walk in a fairly direct way in any direction that you want to go. So we really worked with them hard on that. This is a black and white. I just wanted to highlight that pedestrian, sorry, I said 10 feet. They need to be 6 feet wide and paved. I think they are actually showing 10 feet on most of those for width. But they do need to be paved. There would be walkways. And then as you can also see, the sidewalks that are also throughout the community. And then an abundance of crosswalks with the alternative material. Anytime that you're walking and you're crossing a drive aisle, you're going to have a nice, clear alternative material walkway for safety as well as just convenience in general. So this is the center of the landscape plan. It just kind of highlights where the main trees and shrubs are going to be located. All of the parking lot islands have trees. All of the corners of the developments are well landscaped. The inside corridors in between the units, which is actually the backyard, so to speak, because you can see where the entrances are to the garages in the front. And then every unit has its own little private backyard, kind of similar to the bungalows in Bolin or some of the other products we've seen that have the private open space in the backyard. And same thing, just a view of where Stonegate Road is and the two main entrance points there. Elevations, from the start to the finish, we feel like we really got a lot out of these buildings. The original buildings, no offense to the applicant, were very boxy, kind of all stucco. So we worked with them to get some color splash in there, some different materials. We have some metal, we have some hardy board, plank, shiplap type material. We have some stucco. We have a lot of different materials, a lot more glass, a lot more windows than originally, especially on the garages even have glass. So I think it's a pretty attractive product that we ended up with in the end. Really like the articulation from the side. You don't see a lot of sameness there. They look very different. We are going to stipulate that the equipment here is to be screened. It's not shown on this site, on this elevation, but all equipment, ground level equipment and roof equipment is going to be screened as well. As you can see over here, here's some of our materials. We've got steel awnings. We've got the marble board siding. We've got the steel patio fences and steel gates with the marble board painted as well. So lots of different materials. Transportation analysis for this area, obviously that's going to be the number one issue with Allen Stevens Parkway, with the development to the north and all of the future development that's going to be coming around it. So the traffic engineer is required to support a traffic letter. It was done. The study basically came back and said that the alternative use, which was already zoned for that area for commercial, would generate much more trips. So this is actually a lesser traffic generating use than before. However, we still want to see all of the traffic go down south, and that's going to go out of Stonegate, and we want people taking a left. That intersection with John Wayne is to be improved. I believe the applicant and the city are going to work together to finish out that intersection there. So we're with that, it'll be a lot easier for the residents to take a left on the Stonegate, go straight down to John Wayne and hop on the road right there and head to town than it would be for them to go up to Allen Stevens, take a right, then a left. So that's how we are addressing that. So the study was prepared, and the applicant's traffic engineer has estimated the number of peak hour trips generated by the development is 165 trips or less. Therefore, a traffic impact letter was submitted and reviewed by our engineering division and our city engineer. Public comment. As a DRP, there was no publication required for the newspaper, but one sign was posted on the site. Notification letters were sent out to property owners within 600 feet. Last time, I don't know if you guys remember, at the last planning and zoning meeting, the commission opened up this request for public comment prior to continuance to this hearing. One member of the public stated his concerns for the project's ability to meet the city's multifamily design guidelines and provided written comment to city staff, which is Exhibit F, staff report, and exhibits. I believe the gentleman, I think I saw him here earlier. There he is. Mr. Klobb is his name. So we tried to incorporate the best of our ability some of his comments, if not most of his comments, as well as which were aligned. We could tell he had some good ideas and some good comments. We took those seriously. So we tried to address those as much as we could. Besides Mr. Klobb, at the writing of the report, I have not received any public comment, phone calls, emails, letters at this time. Staff does recommend and finds the submittal items of DRP 2202 to be substantially compliant with our zoning code. We recommend approval of DRP 2202 subject to the conditions that are set in the staff report. I'm available for any questions at this time. The applicant is also here. Mr. Bond is available to answer any questions if you have them for the applicant as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do have one speaker card, plus I think our lovely attorney would like to speak as well.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I did receive one more speaker card and additional comments that this individual would like into the record, so I'll bring those up for you.
Okay, thank you. While they're doing that, why don't we go ahead and have Sue Van Gossen come on up.
Yes, I'm Sue Van Gosen, 41452 West Lucera Lane. I got claustrophobic just reading the designs on this. It's very closed in, and I'm concerned with the amount of lighting required to keep this from being a creepy area, is his term. The lighting would project to the backyards of those people along Allen Stevens Parkway and Glenwild. And so if they put the lighting down low enough, maybe it won't. But otherwise, the lighting is going to impact them. It's also very close quarters for most any type of vehicle. I chalked off the markings that they gave, and that would make a very tight turn for my mid-size SUV to go into the parking garages. And my original concern was that this design looks exactly like the apartments that are going to be over on Santa Rosa and the ones that are going to be beside the Copa house there. They just don't fit in with the stucco and tile roof housings surrounding them. They look like industrial redevelopment, like warehouses that had been remade into townhouses and apartments. There's just no character to them. But that would be, doable. It's just that there are so many packed so close in there that I just don't know that that's going to work without parking on Stonegate or on Allen Stevens or over in the parking lot where A+ Charter School is. There doesn't appear to be any like guest parking or overflow parking. The other concern, he did address that there was going to be some improvements along Maricopa Casa Grande Highway to make that 4-lane all the way through. I have not seen that in the city plans, but right now, for the traffic to go down that way, they would be down to just a 2-lane mode. There are several places where it's been widened to 4 lanes, but the majority of that part of Maricopa Casa Grande Highway is just 2 lanes. So that traffic, as soon as they get into a traffic jam, they're going to turn around and go back down Porter Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, did commissioners have an opportunity to review all this. My concern is I've got two commissioners on internet that haven't had the opportunity.
Madam Chair, my understanding from the individual that submitted this, it's minor modifications to what was provided to staff. We can have a copy provided to them later. I just don't have a means to provide them one now.
Sure. Okay. Are you guys okay with that, Rachel and Michael?
Is there a brief summary or synopsis of the changes? I know you mentioned that they were minor. What is minor?
Madam Chair, if I might, the individual submitted a speaker card, so maybe he could address what are the changes to the comments he provided today as opposed to what was submitted to staff prior.
Or the new comments? Could we just have the new comments? Because I think we have all the previous comments.
This is actually different than what was submitted in the report. This is not the same. In addition to what was already submitted.
Not all of it.
Isn't it just the blue or new comments?
Oh, just the blue ones are new comments?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, so I might suggest the individual can speak to what is changed from what was previously submitted. So those blue comments.
Okay.
I'm okay with the person there speaking to the changes, that's fine.
We're okay with taking speaker cards.
Correct. At the beginning, when you read the call to the public, you mentioned if it's on the agenda item, you can
Okay.
hold your comment till that agenda item. If not, they would have spoken at the public.
I'm okay with it. I just wanted to make sure it came out of your mouth that we're legal. That's all. I want to keep us all legal. All right. Robert, how about if you come on up and help the commissioners on the internet, help get them clarified of what you're asking or what you're suggesting.
I can't hear him.
Oh, it wasn't on. Sorry about that. Should I start over?
You didn't say anything that.
Okay. This is a synopsis as the staff had requested that I provide a list of my concerns and comments regarding this project back in May, which I did. When I got the notification that this project was coming back around for design review, I wanted to follow up with kind of review the project and review it versus the concerns that I had. And sometimes when things are clarified, it adds new questions. So I've tried to color code it to make it a little bit simple. The yellow being comments that I feel were not addressed by the applicant. The green are comments that I feel were adequately addressed. And the blue is new comments that have arisen. Probably one of my biggest challenges with this project is overall I actually like the project. I'm a fan of multifamily projects if done correctly. But this project lacks creativity when it comes to the site plan design. The architecture of the buildings, I think, is night and day compared to what was brought before this commission before. The current, or what's brought now, is I think it's something that the community can be proud of. Barring a few challenges, but overall, I think it is something that is is very cutting edge, very modern, not to everybody's taste, but I think it gives us a pretty good mix throughout the community. My biggest concern here, though, is there are quite a few things that are not represented in this packet, such as there's a rec building of some sort on the northwest corner of this property. There's nothing in the development packet that talks about it or shows any examples of the architecture. There's multiple ramadas and what have you that are not addressed. So I think that needs to be taken care of by the applicant as a whole packet as we're looking through this project. But if we look at this project as a whole, the site plan, I think, really is problematic. This site plan lacks creativity, whereas the architecture exemplifies creativity. The site plan is linear. The site plan has no undulation. It has no articulation. It's straight roads going one angle, straight roads going another. We have 80 units that are facing due west in Arizona. That is terrible. The entire north part of this development has 0 guest parking. You know, I think it's great that there's guest parking that they've allocated on the south that staff had mentioned earlier, that they'll have fob access and so on. What happens to the people that live along Allen Stevens and they have a birthday party for Junior? Where do those guests come? Where do they park? There's nowhere for them to park. There is, the other challenge that I run into with this project is, was the 4 or 6 unit elevations that the applicant provided, I think are great. But several of the buildings on this project are 12 units, twice the size, separated by 10 feet. Madam Chair, between yourself and Commissioner Frank is roughly about 12 feet. This ceiling is about 20 feet. So it's wider between the two of you, and another 8 feet taller than this ceiling is the corridor between these buildings. I think there should be a stipulation that 20 feet should be between each of the buildings. I think there should be a stipulation that there should be adequate parking for guests throughout the property. It also doesn't allow for landscaping. All the landscaping and green area is grouped in 2 areas. The northwest corner, which is not really part of, other than the little rec center that they have, not much use to the community, and in the center there's a little park there. Sorry, just catching up on my notes here. I believe that substantial design elements are missing, as I mentioned before, and should be included. Things such as the walls, signs, building articulation, the rec building, ramadas, etc., for this to be a complete submittal, and one that adheres to the multifamily guidelines to ensure the development is held to the higher standards this community is demanding. This development, while significantly changed from the initial submittal architecturally, has the potential to be a very nice quality development and one that the city neighbors can be proud of. However, where it excels in aesthetic design quality, it falls short in the layout of the buildings that are too close. Drive aisles are too narrow. That is a big challenge that I brought up before. It's gotten, they added 2 feet. I think that's still not adequate. As someone who drives a full-size vehicle, you're not going to get an F-150 to be able to park in those garages and be able to turn in and back out. This is only for small vehicles. Parking is going to be very problematic for the residents, and there really is minimal landscaping. I think it could be easily resolved by dropping some of the units, lowering the density. There is, I think that was the intent. The commissioner was joking about it earlier this evening about, cramming as many units as possible into a subdivision. As a design professional like myself, yes, I get it. I do it all the time. I want to maximize the number of units for my customers. But there is a balance that I think needs to be made for the community and the long-term resourcefulness of this project. With that in mind, even though I'm in favor of this submittal and its merits, I ask the Commission to recommend a continuance to allow the client more time to address these challenges and others that this community and the Commission may find. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I might, I believe the applicant's here and would like the opportunity to speak and address some concerns.
Sure, I was just going to ask if the applicants did want to address any of these concerns.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. Brennan Ray, 1850 North Central, here on behalf of Dave Bond, who's in the back. I was before you a few months ago talking about this, and it's good to be in front of you again. As I was jotting down notes, there are a number of things that I think I want to just touch on at a very high level, and I can get into a full presentation if I need to. I don't know that's necessarily required at this time, but I'm happy to if the commission so desires. But with respect to the design of this development, as staff, as Byron indicated in his verbal presentation, as he indicated in his report, we do meet the city's criteria from staff's perspective. They're the ones that have been tasked with reviewing it, analyzing it, making sure that we meet not only the codes, but the design guidelines, not only planning staff, but engineering, transportation, and all the various departments that review this. And so we are certainly grateful to have had the opportunity to work closely with them on this design. I know there was comments about, really compact design, and it might be a little bit intimidating for people living and walking through this community. And I will tell you that if you're familiar with what's called CPTED, it's a design principle, crime prevention through environmental design. This development adheres to those CPTED principles in its design in terms of making sure that there aren't hidden spaces, that there is appropriate lighting, so that people are able to walk and move throughout the community. And with respect to Mr. Kloeb's comments, as an aside, I happen to know Mr. Kloeb, but I didn't get the opportunity to speak to him, and certainly didn't get the handout that you all got, and would love to get a copy of that at some point. But as we look at the design of the community, and maybe I can make the magic screen work and we can get the landscape plan up somehow, so that I can kind of touch on and talk about a couple of things. I'm going to let smarter people. You can go to Byron's presentation too. The landscape plan. While that's getting pulled up, I know there's been questions about drive aisles and being able to cars get through and stuff like that, and I can tell you that we meet the code. We meet what's required in terms of drive aisle width and lengths and through that.
You want to go to the colored one?
Yeah.
Go back one. Okay. So, yeah, perfect, thank you. So one of the things that I would like to correct is that at the outset, staff presented 318. There's actually been a reduction in the number of units. What you see on the site plan is 293. And so there have been a reduction in units from when we initially came through. I know when I came through with the zoning case, I said 318. We have 293, and that comes as a result of some of the comments received from Mr. Kloeb as we've worked with staff. You'll note that internally there's kind of an east-west landscape open space area. We have removed units to open that area up more. I will tell you that throughout the entire development we have, unless I'm mistaken, 27% open space, or 4.2 acres and change in terms of open space throughout this community. And the way that these communities work is, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but these represent a lifestyle choice. People choose to live in this type of a development. They know good and well that we want to live in this type of a community that has courtyards, that has 5 feet of private patio space, that has some common areas, and that has centralized amenity. I will tell you that this site, and I understand the comment to try to make it creative. This site, as you can tell, isn't exactly a nice square box where I can get creative and get a little more thoughtful in some of the ways that we do it. Yet, nevertheless, what we've done is to create corridors, and you can start to see those corridors on this landscape plans. As Byron indicated in his presentation, we do have corridors, open space areas to be able to get people from the future commercial and commercial kind of southwest of us back into the center of the site. And you can see the amenity area. But again, the way that this has been designed is for pedestrian movement. It is to move people through. And again, people come to this. The amenities that are programmed for this development are the kind that are appropriate for it. And I could run you through
probably multiple other similar developments where they have these type of amenities, because what ends up happening at this type of a development is the amenities in the area, the gyms, the commercial areas, you know, those types of things, the theaters, those become the amenities. And it really presents a kind of, like I said, a lifestyle choice for people here, for lower maintenance, lock it and leave it, be able to go and stuff like that. And so I think, you know, as far as the parking goes, we can maybe take a look at it. I'll tell you, we're exceeding what code requires from a parking standpoint. If you look at the site plan, all of these have 2-car garages. So there is garage parking as well. And we are certainly happy to work to maybe look and see if we can get some additional guest parking in some other places. Maybe by moving some units around and stuff like that, we can accommodate that comment. But by and large, we're really excited about this development. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to the area. And I'm happy to address any additional questions that may have come up, but at least as I was taking notes, I think at a very high level, those were kind of some of the things that I wanted to talk about.
Thank you. Okay, let's start down here. Commissioner Yocum. Mike. Mic on. Thank you.
Taking a look at the staff report and the introduction that was submitted, the applicant narrative, the introduction section, the staff report states that there are going to be 318 townhome-style units. And on page 3, they indicate they're going to be 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. In the introduction section, on the applicant's part, we're told there are going to be 293 townhomes with spacious 3-bedroom, 2-bath units. So I'm curious as to which is it.
Announced that was incorrect. There's 298.
293.
993, sorry.
Yes.
I wrote that 293.
And Chair, Commissioner Yocum, they are 3-bedroom units.
Just wondering why we have 318 on the staff report. Also in the staff report, they're indicated as 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. It's right here.
Yeah, Commissioner Yocum, sorry, that's my mistake. They did reduce, you know, these staff reports come together over a long period of time. So as changes are made, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to catch every error, you know, every reduction that they make, that, you know, that they may change as this project gets closer to completion. So I'll take,
my
responsibility.
concern is that you were aware of it, and that's all.
Okay, yeah, so it is the 293, and I'd also like to point out, if you look at the site plan about guest parking, every single unit has a 2-car garage, so all of that parking that you see along the south, it's kind of that A shape, and in the middle of the development and then up by the clubhouse, that is all guest parking. So they are actually above our requirements for guest parking for this type of development. Just wanted to put that out there.
Those numbers are congruent with what we find in the applicant's page 7. It's stated there are going to be 2.5 stalls per unit for the 3-bedroom units, and there are going to be 162 opens. But there are a total of, he quotes 795, which is the number you just gave me, so, okay, thank you.
Okay. Glad I didn't mess that up. Thank you.
Otherwise, I like this. I really don't have any other comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Irving.
Yeah, I like the layout. I also agree it's a lifestyle choice, and I know with a large number of teachers who are either single or without families who would fit real well. I don't say it's an issue, but explain to me, because on the traffic coming out, I know you're trying to stay away from Porter, which is good. My concern is, so you're talking about them coming out and taking, if they want to head into the valley, taking Casa Grande Highway down and then getting on 347 that way?
Well, it's going to be up to the individual driver which direction they choose, but we were directed to try to keep traffic away from Allen Stevens Parkway as much as possible, which is why we restricted access to Allen Stevens Parkway. So,
Right.
you know, I mean, if the driver wants to decide to take a right and go up to Allen Stevens, we can't stop them.
Oh, no, I have no problem with that. I guess I was just considering if they do head west on 238, that the city look at that traffic flow right by the district office, because that backup is getting to be really long in the morning. So just, again, it's just to anticipate that option, which I think is much better than going down the other way. But again, that backup is getting pretty long there. So it's just a heads up, because I like the flow if they went that way, but it's, you know, it's just creating that's all. Yeah. But otherwise, it sounds good to me.
Commissioner Irvin noted, in addition, now that we are going to have control of John Wayne, which I accidentally said this was John Wayne, this is not, this is Maricopa Casa Grande Highway. Sorry, I've been here for 12 plus hours. The interchange there, as we know, is not ideal. And I think the city staff, you know, looking forward foresees problems with that interchange. And now that we will have control of John Wayne where it meets Maricopa Casa Grande Highway, I foresee that there's probably some improvements that are going to need to be made. And so we'll react to that environment when we. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Frank.
So yeah, shown on this graphic, the cluster of buildings down in the southwest corner, I'm a little confused on how the driveways and garage setup works there. It looks like a shared driveway. Am I seeing that right? What?
Southwest corner.
Any of these that have the little cutout, it looks like, in the building shape?
I think it's just a curb, isn't it?
Basically the black square.
Yeah, the black squares.
Yeah. It took me a minute, but those are the front doors to the units themselves.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, and then when you were showing the elevations, I was trying to figure it out there. So is the garages, they're two-car garages, and they're all the way out to the front of the sidewalk, or I guess I'm just confused on the layout of that.
I get it now.
Huh?
To the front.
Okay.
There's a
The
garage.
garage elevation, I got you, okay.
So the elevation, there's another elevation in your packet. Bear with me 1 minute and I will find it. In your packet, elevations, if you look at page 7 of 8 of Exhibit E, and I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
Because there is two different building types. These are the buildings that are located along Stonegate and Allen Stevens Parkway. So these are the buildings that front onto it. The elevations, and I could point on my iPad or they could load my presentation, but those elevations, again, page 7 of I think it's 7 of 8 on Exhibit E. No, excuse me. Page 7 of 9, excuse me. If you look at page 7 of 9 on that Exhibit E, you can see the front doors.
Go back to not this one, because this is not going to. Yeah, no, I wanted him to go back to the.
It's fine. It's
They would be on each side, the garage doors are on each side of those black lines.
so, yeah, I have to kind of agree that I'm not sure if they're meeting the multifamily design guidelines, and that there's very little variation when you're looking down this long corridor with the setbacks and articulation of the buildings. It's all just very linear, it's very straight. It's just going to be this long, monotonous looking corridor. It's just one of my concerns. So I guess it's a design guideline issue with that.
Yeah.
That would be no different than a single-family home community, though. They all look
Well,
the same.
we're trying to move in that direction where there's some offset and articulation off of the roadway. So they're not all cookie cutter, it's not all the same.
Oh.
It's just going to be one long corridor.
Yeah. Through the chair, Commissioner Frank, one of the things that's always difficult at this level of a site plan is to see kind of the bird's eye view, the in and out, the movement of the building itself. Even if you look at the architecture, you know, the architecture in the packet and stuff like that, it's tough to see kind of the horizontal push and pull of the building as it moves through. And so it's tough to visualize. I certainly understand the comment, but I think when we, you know, maybe we can get an additional exhibit that shows plan view of the jogs in the building and stuff like that. So they,
or an isometric or a rendering, something like that will just, yeah, give us the 3D.
It's not a straight line all the way down.
The other comment I have is, it's kind of been brought up a little bit, is the guest parking. You know, if this was a apartment style thing, we really hammer people on guest parking. And that north corner up there is just very lacking in that. If I'm, you know, a teacher there and I want to have a few people over for Thanksgiving dinner, I got to make Grandma park way down there in the lower South 40. And I don't know, that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I guess market forces will dictate if people want to live there and live like that. Like you say, it's a choice. But I really think we should try to get some parking in that northern area somehow. And then the other thing on parking, there in the central and I guess on the south, outside the property where you're going to be overhanging the sidewalk, we got to make sure we put parking bumpers there so that or provide a wider sidewalk. So you have 5 foot clear if there's any overhanging vehicles. That's a relatively minor detail.
They have to be 6 feet, so that's the foot that you're talking about instead of the bumpers.
Yeah, whatever the standard overhang is, I can't recall off the top of my head if it's 18 or a foot of bumper overhang. So if they're parked all the way up to the curb.
Correct. So the sidewalk width has to be 6 feet, so there will be 5 feet of clear with the 1 foot for the bumper overhang.
Okay. If that's the standard, then
Yes.
okay. Those are my comments then. So yeah, I think the guest parking is probably the biggest deal.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson.
I'd like to thank Mr. Klobb for your very informed observations and input. It's had a little bit of an impact on me. I appreciate it. Look forward to comment. My comments are related to the fire emergency exits. Right and the lower left. It looks like the one in the upper right exits or enters onto Allen Stevens Parkway, while the one in the lower end empties into what I don't know, or enters from what I don't know. I'm assuming somebody else's property.
Did the emergency only access points that are here and here?
Correct.
Correct. So the emergency access only for emergency vehicles will come from the future commercial area, which is, I believe, do you guys own that property to the south? Yeah, so that is a separate property owner to the south. And then the emergency only access will come from the shared access point with the A+ Charter School. So yes, that will come from Allen Stevens Parkway. But once again, only for emergency vehicles.
If I may, Chair, Commissioner Robertson, the owner of the commercial shopping center is who we are buying this from, and so they are granting us the necessary easements for the emergency access.
Okay. Kind of concerns me because we don't know the future of that property to the south, but yet we are making an arrangement in perpetuity without knowing whether those tenants, property owners that come in the future will allow that to continue.
Through the chair, Commissioner Robertson, when easements are granted, there is a servient and dominant and subservient. There's a grantor and a grantee. So the rights to maintain that emergency access, unless I'm really mistaken on real estate law, which I don't know that I am, but that will encumber both properties to provide that access. So it's not as if whoever comes in the future can wave a magic wand and say, no more emergency access. It's fairly typical, at least in the developments that I've worked in, where I have this situation of residential going into commercial, that there are those easements that are granted and they run with the land. And again, as I said, the owner that we're buying this from is the owner of the commercial, and it's his right to encumber his own land to ensure that that emergency access continues.
So that easement arrangement is being negotiated as,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, that's it? That was easy. Let's go to the internet. Commissioner Sharp.
I share Commissioner Robinson's thanks for Mr. Claw providing his very detailed and well-reasoned analysis from his perspective on this particular project. A couple of the items that he touched on were some of the issues that I had, which is just the linear nature and just a seeming lack of creativity into designing the site plan. And as I was going through the elevations, I also noticed that there's mention of a clubhouse, but I didn't see any elevations for the clubhouse. Are we to assume that it's also going to be two-story and look just like the condominiums depicted? Or is there any visibility as to what that clubhouse will look like? Those are just the high-level comments that I have at this time.
Chair, Commissioner Sharp, in terms of the specific question about the clubhouse, it is one story in height. In the architecture, obviously staff's done a great job with input from, I want to call him Commissioner Klob. I knew him in another life when he was a planning commissioner at the city of Chandler, so I apologize for that. But with respect to what Mr. Klob has said, the architecture of that clubhouse building, that one-story clubhouse, is going to be consistent with the rest of the development. We're not going to design something that's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Understood. I just would have liked to have seen it. That way I've got some context behind it as it relates to the balance of the community. Is it going to be flat roof, slant? You know what I mean? Like just trying to make sure that it's...
Understand.
Commissioner Sharp, I'm not sure how this is Byron Easton again, sorry. I'm not sure how the clubhouse elevation is not with the other elevations. I can look into that first thing in the morning and make sure to send out the clubhouse elevations to the commissioners first thing in the morning. It was originally part of the elevation. It was reviewed. I'm not sure how it didn't make it into... This seems to be my mistake case that I'm making a lot of mistakes on. I apologize on that one.
Okay, so it was actually submitted as city staff. I was under the impression that the 9 pages that we got represented the complete submission. So I appreciate your apology. Don't beat yourself up too much, but if city staff did see it and review it, I'm okay with that. Now to the site plan, again, I just feel like there needs to be a little bit of creativity thrown into this. I understand it's a weird site. It's laid out kind of... We've got Allen Stevens Parkway on a curve, but between the issues that have been addressed dealing with the lack of parking on the north side of the site and just the linear and almost cranky nature of these units as they run down this alleyway style design, I just feel like there needs to be more. And again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but I know I'm not alone on the same thing that I was thinking. So that's
Through the chair, Commissioner Sharp, we are happy to agree to a stipulation to work with staff to provide some additional guest parking up in kind of the northeast portion of the site, kind of in that, I don't want to say in and around that emergency only access that's on the screen now, but we're happy to have that as an additional stipulation if you all would agree to that.
Michael, anything else?
No, nothing else at this time, thank you.
All right, Commissioner LaFalle.
Yes, thank you. I agree with what was mentioned before. I'm hearing that echo again. I just want to ask on the mention of the westward units where the sun, I did notice that there are some awnings, but will there be awnings on above each unit on the second floor to avoid that sun exposure, or is that just kind of at the top of the building what I'm seeing? Because I see it by a window, but I'm not sure which side of the window those awnings are located.
Through the chair, Commissioner LaFalle, yes, there are some awnings there. If we need to add some additional awnings, we're more than happy to do that as well. I know that in the perfect, again, if I had a perfectly shaped site, like a square or a rectangle, I could ensure that most of my units hopefully would face in a north-south direction. I've got to kind of play with the cards that I've been dealt, and so that's why I do have some west-facing units, but we will certainly work to look to see if we can add some additional awnings or something to help shade in the afternoon.
Great, thank you so much, and I do understand the challenges that are faced in this design, but and I do see the differences from what was originally submitted, so I appreciate that as well. But that was my comment, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I've got some questions. My first one, and you mentioned it earlier, and maybe you can help me figure out where they're at, is the gates for pedestrians to get out going to the commercial sites.
Chair, you see the long black spaces in the site plan? I could, so if you see right there, there's a pedestrian gate that's going to be right there, and then there's another pedestrian gate that is right there as well. So these corridors allow for that pedestrian's movement.
So there's going to be two on that side, and then are side pedestrian gates as well, underneath where it says emergency only?
Oh, wrong button. Madam Chair, no, these are landscape parking islands.
So basically on that side only? Where's Walmart located on this? I think it's over here on the other side. Yeah, so there's no way for anybody to get out to go to Walmart. That's what my concern is. They're going to start knocking down walls, guaranteed.
Madam Chair, we are happy to look at where we can provide some additional pedestrian gates.
Yeah, exactly. Take it from one, who knows? Okay, that would be awesome. I can definitely suggest that stipulation as well. So I'm going to go back to exactly what everybody was talking about to give you a little bit of context in the long alleys, so to speak, because I did manage, I'm in the HOA world, and I do manage or did manage a townhome community similar to this, and it was consistently a problem where grandma comes over to visit family members that has a carload of gifts to bring. There's no place for grandma to park except down in this little L-shaped area, and living over there in the top side or the back side or whatever, or for people who have 3 vehicles, because this is a 3-bedroom community, they're not going to have but 2 parking spots in a garage, and I dare you to show me one person that doesn't use a garage for storage, so I don't think 2 cars are going to be in those garages. But where do they park to unload their groceries? And where does grandma, unload all of the packages that she's bringing? And when they park in front of their front doors, how do first responders get by?
Madam Chair, that's a great question. If you'll give me 1 minute to speak with Mr. Bond about it. Madam Chair, with respect to the guest parking, hopefully I've addressed that with that stipulation. In terms of how this will work, I mean, there are lots of scenarios in which I could come up with to either make it easy or make it difficult in terms of for people to move throughout this community. But as we look at this, the example that you gave of grandma coming by or somebody coming by to drop off their groceries and stuff like that. Again, these are two-car garages, so if someone that lives there, obviously they have an ability to pull into their space and to be able to do it. If grandma comes and drop off groceries, like most communities, apartment communities, townhome communities, that is a temporary thing. There will be no parking allowed in front of these units, obviously, but people will do what they will, obviously, and that's where the management company comes along and enforces that no parking and does that. I'm not aware of any foolproof method to be able to do that. I haven't managed properties. Obviously, I don't have that management experience, so I can't speak
I'm
to
giggling
that.
because the management company doesn't work on the weekends, nor do they work at night. And that was, well, we try not to work at night. That was one of the questions that apparently is in yellow on here, which says that comments not addressed, and that was one of the comments was management, whether it be an on-site manager during normal business hours or would this be managed off-site. You don't, with it only being a clubhouse, this is not something, and obviously you can't probably answer this question as it's rhetorical, but the HOA would, and the likelihood at 293 units that it be an on-site position is going to be very small.
It will not be an on-site position.
Exactly. So that leads me back to my dilemma of making sure that there is enough access points for first responders and especially fire trucks to get around some of these obviously tight corners. That's what my concern is. How are you going to get a fire truck around that? If there's cars parked in those parking spots, has that been vetted out?
Madam Chair, I don't know if that specific instance has been vetted out. Unless I'm mistaken. Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I might intervene, as part of the vetting process through the city, the city fire department and city reviewers for the fire department have looked at this, reviewed this, and essentially approved it in order for it to bring it before you this evening.
Okay, I just wanted to put that out there in the airwaves, that this has been vetted, that this has been looked at so that a fire truck can come through there, because it is close quarters.
It is.
And that we are indeed making sure that we're taking that into consideration. Okay, and the other question, just to answer for you, Robert, about the development, who's going to manage it, it's going to be developer-owned, and the CC&Rs will actually dictate when that flips, and it's usually at about a 75 to 80% capacity before it flips. So, unfortunately, that will be developer-controlled until that point. But again, I'm just gonna go back to reiterate what everybody was talking about. This is a lifestyle choice. These are not for rents. These are to own, and when you do that type of product, people are going to be looking at it very heavily because this is a big purchase for them. It's not going to be a monthly rent, it's going to be a purchase all the way down the way. So they're going to want to make sure that they've got that. The other thing that I wanted, just for clarification, to stipulate up or to come up with what you were saying, Commissioner Robinson, is the fact that the easement will be recorded for that property. So they're not going to be able to, plow over it or build over it. It's going to be something that's recorded. So when they go to build off of on this area down here, that easement's going to have to be addressed. So I just wanted to put that out there in the airways as well to make sure that everybody understands that we're doing our due diligence on that to begin with. guest parking has been, the only thing that I would suggest if this does move forward is that we do look at those 3 items that had talked about in the way of the stipulations. I'm sure city's been recording those, being that, if this does go through, that one of the stipulations being that the city staff would work with the developer to make sure that the clubhouse that we haven't seen the renderings for would match the aesthetics of the rest of the buildings. That would be one. And then the stipulation to work on more parking on the north side of the complex for that, as well as ensuring that there is pedestrian access. I'm going to say at least 2 points for that long of a drive, that long of a span. Like that there's 2 points on this side, and I would suggest 2 points on the other side as well.
2 additional pedestrian access gates, maybe one the left side of the A or arrow and one on the right side. Does that sound?
I'm not worried about this kind of sideways L as much as I am where Walmart is.
Okay.
That's what they're going to be going to, because this is going to be, and then they can worry about this other section down here. But maybe that's a good stipulation. Maybe make it 2 points on each one of these long draws.
I was thinking, Commissioner Huggins, maybe one gate at the emergency access gate, providing a pedestrian gate there, and then another one further up toward the top of that point, so to speak.
Well, that might not be a bad idea where all those landscaping is
Correct.
at the point.
That's
That
what
would
I
be-
was thinking, yeah, in
And
the
then put
corner.
one up with the other emergency exit and then one in the middle on the right-hand side.
Yes. And then I also have Commissioner Huggins maybe looking into more awnings
Yeah.
along the western facing, specifically elevations.
Okay, so that would be 4 stipulations.
Correct.
I
Madam
think,
Chair? We've heard 3 to 5 or 6 ad hoc stipulations tonight. Some things that we'd like to see added. I'd like to make a motion that we continue this and ask the applicant to get back with a completed revised DRP after working with staff to answer the questions. There's just too many open ends. We're being told, and I trust them, that these things could be done. But until they're in the DRP, I'm not really comfortable with voting on it tonight. I think we should, and I therefore put a motion forward to continue this action.
I second that motion.
okay. Comments?
If it's a motion to table,
Oh, my.
well, it's on the agenda to vote on. Are we moving it to me, table continuing to the same thing?
No, that's, Madam Chair, Commissioners, that's part of your purview. You have the right to approve it, deny it, or continue it based on the conversations that you've had this evening.
I'm not denying that. Never mind.
No, I'm just saying that is, those are within your realm.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I might, Commissioner Robertson's motion to continue, was that for a date certain, or is that to a time when the applicant and the city have completed the stipulations that were discussed and the modifications that were discussed in the site plan?
The latter.
Commissioner Sharp, do you agree with the motion made by Commissioner Robertson?
I do, and I maintain my second.
Madam Chair, there's been a motion and a second. We need a vote on that motion.
Any other comments? The only thing I would suggest is there more that you wanted them to look at before? Because right now we have the 4 stipulations.
They've been taking notes, staff's been taking notes on what's been discussed tonight. I think they need to meet again at the table, bring it back to us one more final time with it part of the record. This does not reflect what is going to happen.
I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that. So we're basically just looking for these 4 stipulations to be added in writing to the DRP.
Correct.
Yes, Madam Chair, that would, it appears the route that we're going down would allow us to address those, either through site revisions, as the applicant has seemingly agreed to, or continued, stipulations added to the site plan. I believe that it will provide an opportunity for the applicant to work with staff, and we can bring some revised documents to you and may be able to satisfy those condition of approval requests.
Since it sounds like the continuation probably might go through, what I also might suggest is do some rendering showing that it's not a straight line. Show that there's some variations, because I'm going to agree with Commissioner Frank. I don't like the straight line look of this rendering right here. With that being said, we do have a motion and a second on the table, and all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Right, that's unanimous. All right, 5.4, DRP 22-13, a request for a approval of a major development review permit for a proposed 33,000 plus square foot church campus on approximately 10.3 acres. The site is generally located on a southeast corner of North Honeycutt Road and North Porter Road. Discussion and action.
Good evening again, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Derek Shearer again, presenting DRP 22-13, excuse me, it's been a while, Christ Church of the Valley. This is a request by Christ Church of the Valley, CCV, for review and approval of site plan, landscape plan, photometric plan, and the elevations for a proposed church campus. The proposed site the building will consist of approximately 33,000 square feet of main congregation building with worship center, sports field, outdoor baptistry, I could never pronounce that word, excuse me, baptistry, large shade canopies, and the associated parking required for the development. Here we can see, here's the site location. It is a rather oddly configured site. It's almost a landlocked site, except it does have three frontages, to the north on Honeycutt, to the west on Porter, and then to the east on Whisker Road. The total site acreage is about 4.38 acres. It's currently vacant, but CCV proposes to develop the church on their site. The general plan for the site is employment, and the existing zoning is CB2 general business. Under the CB2 general business district, this is allowed use, so this is just a straight design review proposal. Here we have the site plan. With you can see the proposed church on the right side. Then there's the shade canopies sort of in the middle that are dark there, and then the parking. And then over on the left side, which will be the west side, that is the ball field. It's a general purpose ball field, soccer, football. It will be lit. The access for the site, they have two driveways, one to Porter Road, one to the west, one to the north on Honeycutt. There is access from the parking lot to the east side to get out on Whisker. However, fronting on Whisker, that is really sort of the back of house for the church. That side of the building is where like the maintenance, where dumpsters located, things like that. It's not really the face of the church. So there really isn't that much access to Whisker for through traffic and everything like that through the whole site. There is some parking on the north side of the church that will be accessed off of Whisker, but that is mostly probably for the employees, not the congregants. We have a site text slide here that shows the overall site with the landscape plan. As you can see, even besides the ball field that you can see in green right there, there is some significant landscaping up towards the face of the church, and then the walk aisle through the parking area, and then the parking islands. Here's a zoom in of this landscape plan. As you can see also, With the configuration of the lot and how it extends out to Porter Road, there they have some landscaping, they have monument sign, so everyone will know that that's the entrance there, and then the same to the north on Honeycutt. Here we have the elevations of the church. The top elevation is a front elevation, so if you were looking at in the parking lot facing east, that's the elevation you'd be looking at. The bottom elevation, that's a southern elevation. You can see a large porte cochere kind of canopy structure that comes off of the building. In front of that, going towards the parking lot, is where you have the shade canopies and the baptistry. And here's the opposite. So the top is the north side of the building, the porte cochere that's facing west, and then the rear. And staff has worked with the applicant on this elevation to bring it to a level of expectation for the city, especially this rear elevation that fronts on Whisker Road. As it's so close to Whisker Road and only has that somewhat service driveway behind it, staff is very comfortable with the use of the materials and the color palette. On these elevations, the color palette really doesn't pop. It sort of blends in. It seems rather dark, but through the submittals that we've had with the color board, staff is very comfortable and likes the color patterns that have been proposed. Also, if you see on this rear elevation, you can see that sort of lattice work that going up sort of takes away from the flatness of the wall. We have that articulation. We have the design elements here, and staff is in support of this. We have some elevations of these canopy structures. These are the ones that are located between the front entrance of the building and the parking area. These will be multi-use shade areas for different events, different things that the church is going to do, outside activities, kind of milling about, maybe parties or something like that, all the things that they'll do. Also, here we have the elevations of the baptistry. The baptistry is located just south of the canopies on the site plan. Here you can see the color board, which really gives you a good example of what the elevations and what the colors of the structure are going to be, the building. With the split face CMU, the ephes with the red coat red, and then the natural stone, which is very similar to what we have in this room here, but instead of vertical, they're going to be horizontal. So per the zoning code, the applicant has notified by letter everyone within 600 feet of the site. There's been one sign was posted on the property by the applicant. And, well, here we say that we have one written comment. However, in the packet, you'll see that there's been 3 letters, one that was in opposition, 2 in support for this. The opposition, and it's in the participation packet, citizen participation packet that you have in your report. The opposition really that they were concerned with traffic, then also concerned with solicitation at their home for anyone from the church coming in, soliciting for anything, and then also signage and political signs. Signage really wouldn't be that much of an issue. I am familiar with the CCV, and I don't believe that they knock on doors. But again, that is a concern of one of the neighboring residents. So for the criteria for approval, everything has met section 18.155.070. From staff's perspective, we've worked really hard with the applicant on getting this site plan tailored and fine-tuned, and also with the elevations on the building. Therefore, staff recommends approval of DRP 22-13, as we find it substantially compliant with section 18.155.070 and 18.150.060 of City of Maricopa zoning ordinance, subject to the conditions in the in the back of the staff report and any conditions that the commission may want to attach. And the applicant's architect is here if there are any specific questions, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have as well.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and start out on the internet. Commissioner Sharp.
I think this is a great project. I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner LaFalle.
I agree with Commissioner Sharp, and I do not have any comments.
All righty, Commissioner Yocum.
Nope.
Irving.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how you get into this place. I mean, if I'm reading this right, the access point off of West Honeycutt will connect through an existing driveway that currently serves the Circle K in the southeast. And then another one talks about Whisker Road. I drove there today just to look and see, and Whisker Road is a connection to Sequoia, and they're going to have a football field right next to Sequoia's, and I don't know if you've ever been to a game there, but you can't get in. They talk about Porter Road. If you are going east on Honeycutt, and the Circle K, which they say they're going to share, has a special that day, I've seen cars backed up all the way down to Porter and blocking it. And I guess if there's a game, I don't know how you're going to get into this place. I mean, from what you say here, if those are the only access points, just explain it to me.
Here, yes.
Those aren't access points.
In the site context, you can see the overall site plan highlighted and overlaid on the aerial. Beginning at the north, that access right there, if you can think, that is that access, the full access that gets into that Circle K. The one that's right in front of it is only that right turn out, right turn in, right turn out. But the one that you can actually legally make the left out of, that's that driveway, and there's that existing easement, and I'll come down into the parking lot. It's hard to see now if you were to drive by because it's not developed, but that west connection coming off of North Porter, that's going to be another entrance there. That will be limited to a right in, right out because Porter's eventually going to have a median developed down the middle of it, so they won't have that full access. And then Whisker Road is also going to be developed down to this, to CCV here. So there'll be those three sort of points of access around it.
I guess my concern is Whisker Road because that's used to get to Sequoia.
That's really the back sort of house for this. If you look where the building is, there's like area for employee parking on the north, south, and the east side of the building. The main parking area for the congregants that would be coming, they're going to be coming off of Porter and Honeycutt. They'll also be exiting onto Porter and Honeycutt when services are over.
So you don't think that's going to cause a backup on Honeycutt, especially during certain hours? I guess I'm just envisioning a Porter Road with our 6 schools and 3,000 kids that we were told wasn't a problem. Also considering with the Catholic Church expansion, the AME Church expansion, and this, I just envision going through what we went through with the 6,000 kids. Maybe I'm the only one seeing that, or
I understand that. With the church, with the schools, they operate on different times. The church isn't having people coming at 7 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. Their events are going to be more in the evening during the week. If they're going to have services or they're going to have a game here, there's not going to be that conflict. And then again, it's going to be Sunday mornings. The schools.
Okay, so you're telling me the church is only going to be used
Friday,
on Sunday
Saturday,
morning
Sunday,
and not going to be used anytime during the week between 3 o'clock?
But not at the full extent that you would
Well,
expect.
then why
it
put
to.
up the fields?
I'm sorry?
I guess my concern is, having gone through what we did with Porter and hearing all the people talk about the 6,000 kids there, and we were told the same thing, and I've been over to the school and you literally couldn't get anything through between the schools if there was an emergency, and hearing the issue of people who live in Homestead in those areas, it just seems like we're creating the same thing all over again. That's all I'm. And then, you know,
I
they're
have the,
telling me they're gonna, it's a mega church, okay? I think with any mega church, which makes it a good mega church, is they do have expanded activities. So I meant to say it's only gonna be on Sunday makes some sense.
No, the majority, the services, and there will be evenings, and the applicants can speak more to their programmatic schedule, but they're going to run contrary to the peak times that the high school and this, the preschool and the other schools will be operating during the week time, during Monday through Friday, 7 a.m.
I won't beat it
2
to
p.m.
death. I've already given my comment.
I think what he's trying to say is the fact that this CCV is not a small church. It is a mega church, just like he said, it's a mega church. And the facility, they're going to be bringing people to this facility to use these fields, to use the church building, to use all of this stuff. And I hear what you're saying about conflicting times, but they're not going to be conflicting times. It's going to be every day. It's going to be all day, because there's different events. On top of that, they're going to be probably using this facility for conferences and stuff like that. So the traffic that it's going to generate is really unknown. And when we have that unknown factor, it's very difficult to do a traffic study. They're not having, if they weren't, to his point, if they weren't looking to use this facility for a satellite, they wouldn't be building a field because there's no school. All there is a church building. So what do they need the field for? Which is an indication of the fact that it's a mega church and this is a satellite, which is where they're going to bring their activities to.
Yes, CCV is highly active with youth sports, and several of their facilities have sports fields up in Peoria. So you actually have a rather large development of ball fields for soccer. And again, I can the applicants can come speak to that a little better than and more knowledgeable than I am.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Paul Warden. I am a member of CCV, and I'm fortunate enough to work for CCV as well in their architectural design department for Next Idea Architects. And I appreciate those questions. In terms of how the church is used, if we can call these satellite churches, the activities that occur on these campuses are directed by the home church, the church in Peoria. So they are essentially mini copies of the campus in Peoria. We just had our monthly staff training last week, and was not the first time we've been directed to simplify. Our goal is to do less things better rather than a lot of things good. So we don't encourage multiple programs. Our church services, as it was explained in the narrative, occur Sunday morning. For a new campus like this, we would most likely start with 2 services. As that grows, we would add a 3rd service on the Saturday evening until we outgrow that. So the goal is not to expand buildings, is simply to add a service. Forgive me, I'm a soccer player, but I believe high school football occurs Friday night. So again, The only program that we might conflict with Friday night football for high school would be soccer practice. As Derek mentioned, we do have ongoing sports programs. We use sports programs as a way to reach unchurched people so they can come on campus, enjoy a game of soccer, cheer their kids on, and perhaps question, I wonder what this place is anyway. It can't just be just a soccer field. And which is, you'll see that east-west connecting corridor from the soccer fields across the parking lot, underneath the canopies, directly in line with our front door. So that's a psychological intentional design to encourage people to cross over from the soccer field and come to church on the weekend. So in terms of traffic, that's, we have not had conflicts during the week. The church is open for staff, a handful of cars that would come on a weekly basis. They have one weekday off since they work all weekend. I can't say that we would never have a conference here, but this is not designed as a central location, even a regional location. It is a Maricopa location. So in terms of parking, something that may not have been brought up yet, but you might be interested in, we have a cross-access agreement with the surrounding commercial parcels, properties surrounding this site. And so there will be traffic occurring in between the parking. So that would be more of a weekday event when we're really not using our parking during the week, during regular business hours. The surrounding commercial properties will have the freedom to flow through our parking lot. We will not be gating off our parking lot. We also have found when we are parked, when we have a campus next to a school, the school ends up using our parking lot as much as their own because most schools are underparked. And we find that is very beneficial, whether it's parent-teacher conference or pick up your kids middle of the day, something like that. Our parking lots become full when they're adjacent to schools like that. Any questions related to that?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm clear. I would never, ever want you to cut back on your programs. I admire those immensely. And I think as we grow, we need your church and we need to expand the programs. My point strictly was never to have you cut those back. And you're right, the more that can come and go to a church, the better. My issue was just simply to be aware of, I hope you grow and I hope you do extremely well with your programs. It's just that one area has just really been hit. That's all I was saying, but I would never, ever want to encourage you to do nothing but grow your church and your programs. The city needs things like that. It's just, it is where it is. That was my only point, but not to have you cut back on anything.
No, and we would not. Again, that's driven from our home campus. But it has happened that our programs are happening during downtime, during most of the other weekday activities of a town or commercial development. Yeah, appreciate it. Good.
Thank you. Commissioner Frank.
It looks like a good project. No questions or comments from me.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson? No comments. Awesome. I only have a couple. In relationship to your saying that the school uses your parking lot, and I appreciate that ability for them to be able to use that, what type of barrier is there between, as you can see here, the football field and the facility, your facility?
As you can see here on the landscape plan, right above where it says landscape plan, there is a proposed perimeter wall that basically will go across that whole southern property line. So if there were vehicles parking there, say, for example, for Friday night football games, they would have to walk along the wall, then come back down, and then cross Whisker and into the field or the stadium there. And the high school has a fence as well? Yes. Okay.
So
And there is no pedestrian access between the two.
Right, so, okay. So if somebody wanted, if their kid was going to this football game, they wouldn't in reality park in your parking lot and walk all the way around because it would be easier to go to park in the school. I just wanted clarification because you had mentioned that you would share the parking lot with them, but I just wanted clarification for that. So there is no expectation out there.
That's correct. There has not been a discussion with that. It's been our experience at other locations where our campus is located next to a school that has happened. And I've walked farther than that to a ball game, even if you had to walk out onto Whisker and back in again to the school property.
Sure, no, I understand. And you're not gating you're not preventing anybody from coming in there.
That's correct. And we would not, but we have not met with the school and they have not approached us to do that yet.
Question for staff. If this facility continues to, becomes a mega church and continues to grow and the programs continue to grow, and I mean, there's events that happen every day and at night, life groups and stuff like that will be meeting there. To Commissioner Irving's point, the Honeycutt area where this access point is, because I'm envisioning kind of what he's envisioning, that this access point off of Honeycutt will be the main point of entrance, because Porter, if I'm not mistaken, you said that was a right turn only, right turn only?
It will be, yes,
Yeah,
in the
so
future.
envisioning people wanting to go into town, they're going to come and make a left off of Honeycutt. What is the city's design on if that becomes too big of putting some sort of traffic signal or something like that there because of this increased traffic?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, obviously once it would have to become a problem in either one of these locations first prior to the city getting involved in studying it and looking at it from that aspect. Which I wouldn't, to be honest with you, anticipate that from a staff standpoint and having experience with CCV in Avondale and in Peoria, where traffic becomes a problem is Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock getting this mass load of people in and out. That being said, I think one of the advantages that we have here is there are 3 ways out of this site. The Avondale location only had 2 out, and that was a problem on McDowell Road. The Peoria location has multiples out, but it's just a huge venue that just has. So when that presents where I'm going with this is that when that presents a problem and a nuisance for the residents, then they will be required to come up with some kind of traffic control plan that will mitigate that in the morning. Typically, it's in the form of public safety officers from the establishment that create that. It could incur coning off lanes or directing traffic in certain areas to be able to, again, mitigate that. But I think that's worst case scenario. My experience with them is Monday through Saturday. We haven't seen an issue with CCVs, even in Avondale, which had a reduced access rate. So that's typically the process that it would go along, is that it would become an issue, city would respond to it, we would work with the applicant, and then therefore if we couldn't solve it, then the city would take the discussions further as to what would actually trigger a light or something along that nature. I'm not sure exactly where in the process we would get to with that.
Happy to hear that, but I actually think that because of the fact, like Commissioner Irving said, we're throwing all of these, schools and everything else in there, this ball field is going to attract attention from other entities that are going to want to lease it out and rent it for a soccer tournament or whatever. I just envision issues with the parking, just like Commissioner Irving does, and I just want it to be known and to be thinking about that moving down the pipe, that we could potentially have these issues. Again, this is a mega church. This isn't, like Church of Celebration that has the largest congregation outside for non-denominationals. This is big. This is a big church. This is not a small church. I mean, even the Catholic Church had parking issues and traffic issues.
Right.
I'm like him, I envision problems.
If I can add, Chair, speaking with the city engineer, at this time, even with this and further development in this area, the city does not anticipate signalizing Whisker or either of the entrances here, but staff has brought this issue up to the applicant through the discussions through this process. And I talked to them about the use of off-duty police or peace officers doing detail work, doing traffic management, and they are familiar. They've hired them at their other churches before when they have services or when they have their athletic events and things like that. And they're very familiar with that. It's just, what is the trigger mechanism to know when is that needed? So it would be, there's complaints coming into City Hall. City Hall speaks to the pastor at the church or the facilities manager, and then you need to come up with a traffic plan, the same that the schools did, and then they institute it. And they're very familiar with doing that, and they've done that elsewhere, and they're open to having that.
Understood. Understood. My only last comment is the fact that I think everybody is underestimating a mega church.
If I could add one other thing to that, Madam Chair, and again, in my experience, and I hate to go back to another municipality, but in both Avondale and Peoria, it wasn't the residents that were complaining about the traffic, it was the churchgoers that couldn't get out that complain about, and typically that's where the complaints come, and plus what?
He's just saying to trust him, that's not going to be the issue here, that we will have complaints. I just want everybody to be on notice. I am totally for this project. I'm all about having churches and allowing people to have the ability to choose where they want to go worship. It's an awesome adventure. I think it's phenomenal. I just want everybody on notice. I don't know how long you've been sitting here, but just this one night, you can see that traffic is our biggest pet peeve. And it's not something that we just choose to have a pet peeve. It is a problem in this community, so we like to address it before we ever get to that point. So
yeah, I would echo the same comments. I think it's a wonderful project. I think it's horribly bad site, but I would, have no other right. You meant every single thing you were supposed to, and we've both gone on record about saying what the city's going to deal with. But I applaud you. I certainly couldn't vote no because of that, because you've done everything you're supposed to do. So, but it's, you own the property, you have a right to put it there, you've met all the code. It's just something that our city will have to deal with in the next year or so, but that's got nothing to do with you. I applaud you.
definitely don't want to prevent a place to worship.
Yeah. Oh,
no.
And I totally appreciate your comments and concerns.
Yeah. All right, guys. With that being said, this is discussion and action. I think we kind of beat this to death.
Right.
This is action as well. All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Awesome, thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. All right. Report from commission and our staff.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I just have one item I just would like to share with you tonight. It's kind of a bittersweet kind of thing. You might have noticed that we've been kind of hovering over here around Brittany. Alex and I would more Alex than I, have been getting a crash course in Granicus, which is our system that records everything. Because I'm happy and sad to say that this is Brittany's last meeting with us tonight. So she's off to a better opportunity upstairs. I can't.
We just got through talking about a church and
Brittany's dying.
Upstairs at City Hall here. I mean,
we were going to say, what?
Well, if I could predict that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now, would I? But it's been.
We all got to go sometime.
Well, I hope mine sooner rather than later.
We're talking about churches.
I know.
Upstairs.
But I can't thank her enough for not only what she's done with this board and commission, but the impact that she's had on my tenure here and the tenure of our department. I mean, she's just been instrumental to our success, and I just wanted to say thank you publicly.
You want to share what you're going to be doing?
Upstairs.
Yeah, upstairs. You want to share what you're doing upstairs?
So I'm moving to the Office of Business Management, working with finance, and I'll be there a business analyst for development services still, CIP, and public works.
So you're going with Lisette?
Yes.
There's a problem here. You lose all of your people to that
Listelle was the
department.
previous secretary before, yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so
Thank
we
you.
finally got Legistar figured out, which we had a few bumps along the road this week, and now we get to learn Granicus. So Alex and I are real excited about this, as you can tell.
Sure you are.
But yeah, just publicly thank her and just wish her well, and know that we'll see her down the road here. So next meeting will be October 24th, I believe it is. We've got a fairly aggressive agenda about the same as this evening. And then
You bring pizza. Commissioner Frank asked for pizza.
for pizza,
And a potty break.
duly noted.
All right.
And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
And our high and mighty attorney is shaking his head no, get the heck out of here, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. I move.
I got a motion and a second. Dan Frank said second.
Yeah, whatever.
You're whatever. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thanks, guys.
Take care and congratulations, Brittany.